Hello, can anyone hear me? If you can hear me, say something. Hello, Tim. Is loud enough, or is it kind of soft, or? Good. All right. Looks like we have 14 people here. Well, thank you everyone for being here. Winston Strumbly. We got Tim, John, Superior Cyber Godzilla, Yosemite Sam, Shadow. Oh, Larry. Hello, Larry. Michael. Hello. Camera 977. I know it's well, at least in the Midwest, it's a very hot day today. I haven't been out in the sun, but I look a little sunburned. I guess you really can't have time of year. Well, I'm set up here in the basement of horror. Oh, hello, old nasty. Hi. And yeah, it's hot everywhere. Last night, Saturday night, I had a very good panel discussion, which you guys won't see until October. But I recorded a very nice panel discussion with 3 guests who were all involved with creating and running a company that was very important to all of us in our childhood. If you're Gen X, this company was a maker of things that were beloved to us in our childhood. So it took months to get that together, and I got it done last night. And I haven't seen the footage. I believe the audio and video all stuck to the cloud drive. Sometimes the image just doesn't stick to the film, so to speak. So I haven't looked at it yet, but hopefully it's all there and you can see it and you can hear it. And in this discussion, I think will be very interesting, but it won't be until October. So I'm going to sit on it all summer, edit it and work on it. And then in October, it might be the premiere episode in October. And I hope everyone enjoys it. It was a long time coming to get these people together. Billy, he is down here. I actually have some company. My brother and my niece are upstairs. No, they will not be making an appearance here. So when I have company, Billy is kind of spooked. So he's down here. He just walked by a minute ago, but I'm nervous whenever there's company. Anyone in the house who isn't either me or my father, he's comfortable with either of us. But my brother, my niece, the neighbors, anybody, people who come work on the house, anyone, Billy gets spooked. He enters into an existential crisis, and it takes him about 24 hours to get out of it. Oh, there's Billy. I see him right over there. Maybe he'll jump up and make an appearance. Yosemite Sam saying, I have a Billy, a cream tabby. He's nuts. Hopefully, these comments will be visible when the live stream is archived on the channel, but sometimes it's tricky, or sometimes it takes a few days or longer for the to be visible. So if people ask questions, I'll try to repeat them in case future viewers can't see the comments. Voodoo Powder. Hello, he's saying hello, Raymond. Hello, Voodoo Powder. Voodoo Powder, that sounds like part of that. You might blow it at me and like, Jonan Jello says hello. Hello, Jonan Jello. Well, I mean, I do have, a few modest things for show and tell, but I want to see if we get more people. There's 41 people watching, so that's quite a few, actually. So I don't know. Do you want to ask some questions? Earl Ferguson. I know who that is. Hello. Do you want to pick a topic? Do you want to show some stuff? I mean, there's nothing really that exciting, but you do have a few things. Tell me, I'm a vampire. I just stay in my castle, my crypt, and I lurk around, and I don't really go anywhere or do anything. So, but you guys, I'm sure, have plans and summer activities. And so what are some of the things you've been doing? Yosemite Sam says, happy 50th Jaws. Yeah, I kind of would like to see one of the theatrical screenings. I've actually seen Jaws at a theater several times. Almost every summer, there was a stretch of several years where almost every summer you could find Jaws playing in a theater. So I've seen Jaws in a theater many times. But, playing in the next few weeks. I mean, it's been playing at, Alamo Drafthouse and here and there, but that's kind of on my list of things I'd like to do this summer in the next few weeks if I can. Yeah, Gamera says that it's hot here too. I'm ready for fall and Halloween already. Yeah, well, I'm ready for Halloween all year round. There's a lot of creaking upstairs. Do you hear the creaking? Is that distracting? Not really anything I can do about it, but let's see here. Where's a lot of light? Yeah, come from there. No, summer must be Shadow Life Rocks. I was just typing that. Watched the original and Jaws 2 this week. Oh, cool. I haven't seen Jaws 2 in a while. I saw Jaws 2 during its original theatrical run. I saw Jaws 2 before I saw Jaws. I saw Jaws during its re-release, so I didn't see it in 75. I saw it in, when was the re-release? Was it 78, 79? I saw it then. So I saw Jaws at the theater during the re-release. I saw Jaws 2 first during its original theatrical run. Desiree, I'm doing lots of toy hunting. Well, with all that hunting, you must have found something. So what's something that you found? Anything interesting? Jonah Jello, from the summer, I've been learning to play Solitaire, the board game. Carnival. Oh, you've been learning to play Carnival Zombie Solitaire, playing it by yourself. Gamer 977, I'm going to have to pull out my copy of Jaws. It's the perfect summer movie. Yes, it is. It's the perfect movie, period. John Franzik, message retracted. Ooh, I wonder what that was. Yosemite Sam, the NECA Bruce game looks cool. Have one ordered. Yeah, I've got. I mean, it's in a box. I can go get it. It's not much. It's in a box. Not much to see, but I'll go get it. So there's this game. Of course, because I keep everything in the box, I don't open anything. Microphone. Yeah. Since we're on the topic of Jaws. And unfortunately, all of these, at least the first run, have this hole. Where is it? Right there. Where the fin stuck through it. I don't know if they're going to fix that or not. If they fix it, maybe I'll buy another one and then open up this one. Maybe. And if you saw one of my Jaws episodes a few years ago, you know I've got the original game of Jaws. I had it in childhood. And I've got a sealed one and an open one. And people make fun of that game. I think it's a great game. I had a lot of fun with that shark because, of course, I didn't use it as a game. I used it as a toy. That big shark with the snapping jaws, I used it with most of my 12-inch action figures, maybe some of my 8-inch ones too. But that was Bruce for my larger action figures. And for the 3 3/4-inch action figures, like Adventure People, I used the Chem Toy Jaws toys, the rubber ones. A few days ago, John says, a few days ago I saw the movie Phantasm on TV. Was that your first viewing of Phantasm, or have you seen it before? I remember that. I didn't see that at the theater. I saw it on the CBS late movie. So it was a couple years after its release. But that's the first time I saw Phantasm. I didn't know what to make of it. I like the movie now today. That is a very 70s movie. You would never see anything like that any other era besides the 70s. Let's see here. Oh, Yosemite, did I find that in the wild? No, I ordered that from that guy. I just stuck a Target bag. I really need to find a big bag to sort of cover it up so it doesn't get faded. I've got a lot of fluorescent lighting down here, so I keep everything covered up. And I've got windows where the light just shines right in, so I try to keep things covered. The windows don't have drapes or anything. My cat likes to sit in the windows, so there's nothing substantial covering them, so the sunlight just comes right in. So that's why everything down here is in bags and boxes. It's all covered up. Tubi was, yeah, I know Tubi. I watch Dark Shadows on Tubi. That's how I use Tubi. I actually watch Dark Shadows on this little phone. Oh, that's my late cat Stinker. That's my home screen on my phone. Stinker died in 2020, so I had him from 2000 to 2020. And he passed away in 2020, and then I got Billy a few months afterward. Yeah, Adventure People. That was as a kid I played with lots of Adventure People, and I think I still have most of them. They're very plagued with condition, but I had the Jeeps and the planes and the boats and all that stuff, and those were essential toys because what's the point of having monsters or superheroes if there are no civilians, if there are no humans? You've got to have ordinary people to make a game. So, like, if you got your Shogun Godzilla, what's he supposed to do? Well, I would get the Sesame Street, with Fisher-Price Sesame Street neighborhood, and some, like the Fisher-Price little people, and some of the neighborhood kids would have their toys over, and they would have different play sets like that, like garages and houses, and back in the 70s there was a lot of stuff like that, little buildings and things. And I would even throw in a few Star Wars toys, like the Death Star would be like the airport tower, and so I would pretend I'd have adventure people in the Death Star pretending it was the airport. So even Star Wars stuff would be incorporated into this. Oh, and there were those sets where you could build skyscrapers with kind of a girder thing. You pop it together and they have like the panels with the windows and build skyscrapers. So I had that stuff. So I could build a nice little city. And then, and there was a McDonald's place, and all kinds of stuff like that. So I had all the little adventure people, and then I had Godzilla come, and planes would try to stop him. We had tanks, different kinds of toy tanks, and we would shoot at them. Then we had the Mattel Rodan would come, and had a plush Mego King Kong that was the King Kong that went with, in our imagination, that went with these large toys. So we had a good old time. We had the Aurora Red Tyrannosaurus. I still have him. I still have all this stuff, except the Rodan. That was my brother's. Don't have that anymore. But they would all attack these cities and wreck them. And so you gotta have that. And for example, you can't have Jaws without adventure people. You can have ordinary people for Jaws. Or King Kong, go out in the backyard and make Skull Island out there. And the adventure people nurse, the blonde nurse, would be Ann Darrow. And we'd have all dinosaur models and toys in different places in the yard as they explored Skull Island. And then that plush King Kong would roam around and discover them and fight them and steal Anne. Then we had the adventure people planes. We had a couple of different toy planes that were kind of the same scale. And they'd come fight King Kong. Michael says, it's hard to believe Jaws is 50 years old. Yeah, I don't know. 50 years ago, it does seem like a long time ago now. I mean, like 2000 doesn't seem very long. It's hard for me to believe that was 25 years ago. But 1975, that does feel time ago. Adventure people, Brick Mantle. Oh, man. Brick Mantle says, adventure people were the glue that held those realities together. Yes. I don't know what we would have done without adventure people. I mean, that really made a lot of these games possible. Or even superheroes. Like I had the comic action hero Spider-Man. And I think, so I had my Sesame Street playset, and I think a neighbor had theirs, and we put it together, make a little city. And then, Spider-Man would be jumping on the buildings and crawling up, and then the adventure people would be the civilians. So you had to have adventure people to have a Marvel style superhero environment, an urban kind of environment. Let's see here. Yosemite says, today is my birthday. It was 3 when Jaws came out. Well, happy birthday, Yosemite. I won't make people sing happy birthday to you. We're not interested, but happy birthday. Fiddle Chips, the 2-hour Jaws video of yours is awesome. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. So has anyone here been to the Epic Universe? I have not. My friend Justin did, and I have to keep, everything's reversed. I'm watching everything reverse here. Well, it's not like a mirror. It's like if I hold it up this way, it's on the other side. It's going to be, so I where is it? So my friend Justin went and he got me stuff. Here's the Epic Universe gift bag. And this is cool. I like stupid stuff like this. And that's all he got me. He just got me that and sent it to me. And that's it. I went to Epic Universe and all I got was a stupid bag. No, he got me a couple other things. Here's the Frankenstein and Victoria set. Yeah, there he is. Yeah, I can't. What am I doing? Where am I? How about this? Okay. Wow. Lots of reflections. There we go. Okay. And that's what the back of the box looks like. And then there's a Dracula set. Come on, there we go. Yeah, that's good enough. There we go. I like the female vampire, the bride vampire, Dracula's bride. I think that's a cool toy. You don't see action figures of vampire brides very often, so that's a little different. Now, do I like these character designs? No, but I like that this park exists. I just love that they even did this at all, and that they took it as seriously as they did. Of course, I wish everything were 1930s and 40s in style, but it's at least they did take it seriously. It's not just a big goof. They did try to create this serious gothic horror environment, and it does have like the creature from the Black Lagoon is in there. He looks good, and the Wolfman is sort of almost like a Benicio del Toro Wolfman, but he looks good. I mean, it all looks good, and they have references to the classics as you're going into the ride. They have a Karloff thing and a Dr. Pretorius thing. They have references to these characters as you're going in. So I like what I've seen so far, given that, you have to kind of take into account it's a modern thing. They're not going to have a mechanical Boris Karloff. I wish they did, or a Glenn Strange. But at least they're in there. They're in the mix. I plan to order those semi-plush dolls. There's a Frank and a Drac and a Wolfman. I do want to order those, and that sort of super deformed big vinyl Frank. I do want those. And I don't know if I didn't have a show, if I buy them or not. But since I do have a show, I feel like I need to have them. I need to do an episode on that. So they're cute. I like them. They're cute. They're not setting the world on fire, but they're cute. I would just like to be in that gift shop and just be in a Universal Monsters gift shop. When do we have the opportunity to do that? That's special. Just to be surrounded by Universal Monsters stuff. New stuff, kind of retro stuff, combination, cool. So I do want to go to that park. It's not happening, obviously not this summer. Maybe next summer, but I want to see what they're going to do with the creature. Are they going to make a creature water ride? Or like on the boat? Because that could be a few years out. So I don't know. But I want to see that. If they're going to build that, I want to experience that. And I'm probably not going to make more than one trip to this place because I'm just, it's very expensive. And I'm not someone who goes to Disney World. I've never been to Disney World or Universal Orlando or any of those kind of places. So I do want to go to this park. Let's see, what's here? Who made this set? Is John asking that? Let's see. Made in China, Universal Studios, distributed by Universal Destinations and Experiences. I don't think it has a company listed besides Universal. I mean, Universal commissioned this for their parks, or for that park, for the Epic Universe. So I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they probably did contract with somebody. Who knows? If it was NECA or whoever, they probably did contract with somebody, but it's not on the box. Eventually, they'll probably get out who made it, but Roy says hi. Hello. John, let's see. Jonan says cool box art. Yeah, it is cool. John says I have a NECA account from Rob Zombie. That's cool. That's Dan Roebuck's account. Ray Batty says hi, hello. Yosemite says Bela was a terrible Frankenstein. From what we can see in the finished product, okay, it's not terrible. Honestly, it wasn't until like the modern reevaluation of that movie that I ever felt critical about Bela in that film. Growing up, I never thought there was anything wrong with it. It was only like in the 2000s, like as online fandom became more prominent, people started discussing it more, that I started to think, I started to see some issues with that performance, because he's blind, but he's supposed to talk, but that was cut out of the movie. So it's a compromised performance. I wonder how it would be if we could see his entire performance as he intended it, as he thought it was going to be, with the talking and the backstory about being blind and everything. Maybe it'd be even worse. I don't know. But as it is, I don't know. It's not bad. It does the job. Gamera, go to Florida in the fall or winter. Too hot and muggy in the summer. Yeah, that's probably what I would do. Yosemite Sam, he didn't seem to like the part. Bela? No, I'm sure he. No, I don't think he did. And I understand the makeup all kinds of problems. Randy, hello. What else can I show you? Oh, here's something I got recently. So I finally got one of these. I never had one before. This microphone. Trying to pop this. I'm do this without destroying it. Well, maybe I shouldn't force it. But anyway, it's got monsters in there. And they all have their tags. See if I can get a better view of this. I was trying to pop this part up, but it didn't want to do it, so I don't want to risk it if it's not cooperating. There we go. So now that, of course, is classic Universal Monsters art. We know who made this, Imperial Toy Corporation. They're not hiding who made it. Made in Hong Kong, 1986. So that's neat. I wish I had that when I did the Remco episode. What was that? A year or so ago? It's not worth doing another episode just to show this, but it's nice to show it here. And it's, it's not terribly rare, but I've never had one before. So now I've got one. Put you up here. Let's see what's happening with the comments. Shadow Life Rocks. Speaking of Disney, you will be happy to hear I acquired my first Randatti skull. Ah, has original glow sticker and Disney price sticker. Thought of you and Andy. I've got something to say about Randatti. Where'd I put that? I had a Randatti skull I was going to show. I'm going to talk about Randatti in a second. I have something to say about Randatti. Yosemite Sam says the box art, talking about the Remcos, not the Remcos, the Imperials. The box art is better than the figures. Desiree says, gosh, I love the Imperial figures. Yeah, I think they're starting to get their due. They're of their time. They're very charming. I know at the time, they were so crude. I had a problem, especially the Frankenstein. I was like, oh, I don't know about this. But I'm glad I bought them. So my carded ones I bought when they were new at the store. I bought Children's Palace when they were still in production. Bernardo Rosado. Hello there, Raymond. Bernardo from Mexico. Oh, nice to say hello again. Hello, Bernardo. It's Brian. I had the Canadian variation of that box briefly. So that is a bilingual box. Is that not Canadian? I don't know. I didn't pay attention to what the language was on the box. Brian says, I still have an Imperial Godzilla topper framed on my stairwell. That has meaning to me. So you mean the display box, the topper that pop? Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, I'd love to have some of that, like the Godzilla or the King Kong, those boxes. I'd love to have lots of counter display boxes. I'd love to have of course, the Azrak Hanway Jiggler box. That'd be a big one. I'd love that. Weirdly, the what they call the Loaf Man figures, the Midnight Terrors skeleton figures. I want that counter display box. How come that's not even that old, really? How come that never turns up? That's got a great counter display box where they come out of the graveyard. I want that box. That's like late 90s. That's not that old. I've never seen that for sale. I know I've seen it in someone's collection, but not for sale. Oh, Michael says, speaking of Universal Monsters, are you going to do an episode on Sideshow Toys? I've said before that I think my final episodes would be on Sideshow Toys. Like if I ever do that, it's the end of the series. It's like the grand finale. I don't know. I guess I'll do it. It's just that's going to be such a difficult. There's just so many of them. Oh boy, it's going to be like 2 3-hour episodes or 4 3-hour. I don't know, 3 3-hour episodes. It's just you've got the 12-inch ones and the 8-inch ones, and you've got the color and the black and white, and you got the little big heads. And there's a lot. There's a lot there. So I guess so. The only Sideshow Universal, I don't have the premium format figures, the statues. I don't have any of those. The only one I ever bought was the Creature, and I ended up selling it after a few months. So I was never interested in the premium format figures or the smaller statues. They made some smaller statues too. I don't want statues, but I have pretty much everything as far as 12-inch, 8-inch, and little big kids are concerned. So I've got the entire series, in some cases 2 or 3 of each, the entire series of the 8-inch color versions, the entire series of the silver screen 8-inch versions. And then there's also like a gift, like FAO Schwartz gift box. I think had Mummy, Frankenstein, Wolfman in it. Got that. I've got all the little big kids individual, and also did they do some skateboards or something, or wrestlers or some weird variant? I've got all those too. And there's an FAO Schwartz gift box of the little big heads. I think it's silver screen. I've got all those. And then there's like a little Christmas little big heads thing like that. And as far as the 12-inch ones, I've got every 12-inch boxed monster except I don't have the standard Invisible Man. I've got the special edition one where the head comes off. I don't have the standard one with the solid head. And I don't have the special edition Metaluna Mutant that had the little flying saucer with it. I got the standard one that doesn't have the flying saucer. And I don't have the contest prize silver screen Son of Frankenstein. I think there's maybe like a dozen of those in existence. I don't have that, but I've got everything else. As far as 12 inches, I've got the big Frankenstein poser, but I don't have the Wolfman poser. So that's pretty much the universe of Sideshow Universal Monsters. That's what I've got. So a pretty extensive collection, because at one point I was on Sideshow's mailing list. Now, this is before I had, long before I had a YouTube show. There was no such thing as YouTube. This was back in the 90s. How this happened, but I got on Sideshow's mailing list, and they would just send me every monster thing they made. I didn't complain about it. So every time they come out with a new monster toy, I would get it. Like, oh, this is nice. What am I supposed to do with this? I don't know what they thought I was going to do with it. I understand now in the YouTube age, I could do videos on it. But back then, I don't know what their thinking was, but I wasn't going to complain. So they just sent me. That's why my Sideshow collection is so huge, because they sent it all to me for free. So I've got a ton of Sideshow. And then finally someone wised up and said, what are we doing? Why are we sending in this stuff? And then finally it stopped. But by then, pretty much the entire line was finished. Let's see. Oh, back to Brian. I will never love the Imperial monsters. Oh, that's so harsh, Brian. You will never love them? Aww. Yes, the display header for the Godzilla toys. I love them then. I love all that Imperial, the promotional stuff, the counter displays, and the card art and all that 80s style. It's, it is of its time. It's definitely not 70s and it's not 90s. It's of its time. Are all Imperial boxes bilingual? Mine is like that as well. I don't know. This is the only one I've had, so I'm not sure. Is that Castellar? Danielle Garcia? Mr. Frost with Jeff Goldblum is a good horror film. Mr. Frost with Jeff Goldblum. I'm not familiar with that. That's not like one of those Jack Frost snowman things, right? That's I don't know what that is. I've never heard of that. Andrew says, and Basement of Horror Family. Hello. Castellar says Scanner 1 has a terrific horror villain. I've heard of that movie. Okay, I haven't seen it, but I've heard of that movie. Michael, what about doing just the 8-inch? Well, yeah, that's probably what I would do with Imperial. I would do an episode that's just the 8-inch. But even then, there's so many of them that that'd be a long episode. But, especially if I did 8 inches color and black and white. Now, I also have all the color 8-inch figures loose. So I have loose that I can show. I have a carded set, and I have black and white carded. So I have everything carded, I have everything loose as well. So it would be a long episode to get through all of that. But maybe someday. Let me see here. Sam is saying, I like those Sideshow smaller figures. Still have them. Do you mean the little big heads? Those are the little ones. Kind of reminds me of the Tomland little mini monsters in a way. John, as much as I like the new Mego figures, I've had too many quality control issues. Well, I don't open anything, so I don't have to deal with that. I know the thing. Yeah, I know they fall apart, but Figures Toy Company and some of the other similar companies, their figures fall apart too. The thing about the Mego quality control that I didn't like is the dye on the clothing staining toy. That's kind of a deal breaker for me. That really shouldn't be happening. But I'm not really collecting Mego, or the last Megos I bought were the Tops Hammer figures. So that was sort of like when I pulled the cord and this is my stop, and I got off. So I don't know if I'll be buying anymore. I guess it depends what they put out. They might drag me back in with something, but so far, I haven't seen anything from me go as planned that makes me feel like, oh yeah, I have to buy that. Those creep show monsters, you know, they're kind of interesting. I kind of feel like they're almost modern Star Raiders. They're this bizarre, weird, kind of crude-looking assortment of random monsters. I know they're from the show. I know they're from Creep Show, but if you've never seen the show, they're just this oddball sort of a monster. It reminds me very much of Star Raiders. So that gives them an angle that kind of appeals to me. So I'm like, we'll see when they're out. I don't know. I don't know if I've seen any of those episodes. I've seen several episodes of the Creep Show series on Shudder, but I don't recognize those characters. So maybe I haven't seen those episodes. Let's see here. Monsterized Bat Fan, arriving a little late, but happy to make it. Hello, Monsterized Bat Fan. Superior Cyber Godzilla does the Sideshow. You mean Shadowbox or Sideshow? Does the Shadowbox brand still exist? I'm looking for the famous ghost. Oh, you mean Shadowbox? Shadowbox, as far as I know, bit the dust a long time ago. If you saw, I think in that episode, didn't I talk about how the headquarters for Shadowbox was owned by his house? I don't know if I mentioned that or not, but it was, because a friend at the time did some research and found out that the headquarters, the package for Shadowbox Toys, was a residence. And even looking at like real estate records going back several years, yes, it was at one point zoned as a business for Shadowbox. It was this house. It was someone's house, like a suburban house. So Shadowbox was a small little company. It's amazing they put out what they did. Monsterized Bat Fan. Sorry if this is redundant, as I am late. I am excited for the eventual release of the Basement of Horror. Oh, Sideshow episodes. 12-inch and 8-inch. Oh, yes, we talked about that. I'll do it. I'll do it eventually. I've said that I would say that for the series finale, like the last episodes to end the series. So I don't know. I don't know if it'll be this season or not. It'll be a lot of, those are going to be long episodes. Like, okay, now here's this one. Here's this one. Oh, look, there's 50 more to go. Here's this one. Mick. Hello, Raymond. Hello, Mick. Monster Eye says, P.S. I love my Imperial monsters. I still remember my dad and finding them in a big bin in Job Lot or Odd Lot. One of those places. Yeah, I got them at Children's. Well, no, actually, I got them at Toys R Us, not Children's Palace. I got them at Toys R Us. They were not like clearance to Children's Palace, although they had them too. But the ones I got were from Toys R Us, and they were still in production. They were still very fresh, you know, factory fresh, nice condition. So they didn't go beat up at Children's Palace. Yosemite Sam, I opened one of these new Migos, stiff as a board, seems easy to break. Yeah, you know, I don't open anything. I'm sure if I took a NECA out of the package and tried to bend it, it would go. Toys today are not made for kids. They're made for people like us. They're made for grown-ups. They're made to look at it. When you have to heat toys up before you move them, those are not made for kids. So I'm trying not to buy so many new toys. I'm sort of stuck on the NECA train with those Halloween kids and I guess the Universal series, but I'm trying not to buy too much stuff. And it seems like when I do buy new stuff, it's almost always NECA. So NECA's really got their hook in me. Nick, I think Andy from Dark Ride Dracula was looking at Star Raiders at a toy show. I used to have a lot of Star Raiders, a lot of carded Star Raiders, and I sold them all for cheap long ago. I've told the story before. There was a time where you could not give those away. I liked them, so I had a nice little collection of several carded ones, but at that time, nobody liked them. you couldn't give them away. I bought them for like between $15 and $25 each, carded, sealed, perfect, wonderful. And you couldn't get bucks for them. Just nobody wanted them. They were just laughed out of the hobby. Nobody liked those things. So eventually I sold them all. I wish I still had all of them. If I still had them, I'd probably buy even more and build into a wonderful collection, because I had a lot of them. But I didn't have all of them. But I had a nice collection of carded Star Raiders, both the regular and glow. But like I said, back then, they had the scarlet letter. Just if you were a serious collector, you didn't fool around. Nobody wanted that. Kind of like the Imperial monster had that kind of reputation until not long ago, and even now, they still have a bit of a stigma. But Imperial monsters for a long time, those weren't considered collectible level toys. Fiddle chips. I'm exhausted by modern toys, tired of chasing almost every toy, so I can give a company my money. I'm 90% vintage now. Yeah, that's kind of how I am, I guess. Well, I'm not buying that much, vintage or otherwise. And the new stuff, it's almost all NECA, unfortunately. Like that Jaws games NECA, and Halloween Kids NECA, Universal Figures NECA. So it's almost all NECA. I don't buy Super 7 anymore. Super 7 would have to come up with something really cool to lure me back. I don't really buy Mezco. I do buy an occasional Jurassic dinosaur, whatever they're calling it, Jurassic Park or Jurassic World, whatever the name on the box is. It's all Jurassic Park to me. I just call it Jurassic Park. But occasionally I buy one of those big dinos, not like maybe one a year. I do like that. I don't collect it, but I do like that series because it's one of the few modern toy lines that's really cool and seems like it still is aimed at kids. I think kids buy the Jurassic Park stuff and play with it. So it's like a good old movie-based kids toy line, like the Star Wars figures would have been back in the day. And that still seems like it's aimed at kids. Grown-ups buy it too, but I think it's still primarily aimed at kids who want big dinosaurs and the people chasing them and getting eaten in the vehicles. I think kids are playing with that. So that's good. That's why I feel like it sort of stands out among a lot of the things. Like Star Wars toys, that's for adults. Marvel, that's for adults. All the other IPs, all these toys, it's for adults. But I think the Jurassic Park stuff is, adults are welcome too, but I think it's still sort of made for kids. Let's see here. FacUM, am I seeing that correctly? I've been following you since your posts and forums. You got me hooked on Topstone with the history of the factory and the employees' tales. Thank you, Ray. Well, thank you. I've been foaming some Topstone masks. I will get up and get one later so you can see an example of what that looks like when I foam a mask. But just yesterday, I was foaming Topstone masks. It's a pain in the neck to try to foam anything. I only do it when it's warm because in my part of the country, the foam doesn't react well unless the weather is warm. So you have to do it in the warm summer months. Otherwise, the foam collapses. It doesn't work. Now, if you're on the West Coast or someplace like that, then you can foam all year round. But I was foaming Topstone masks just yesterday. Kuva, never end the series. Well, one day it's going to come to an end. One day. I mean, when I started, I didn't think I'd 7 seasons into it. So this would be my 8th season this fall. Yosemite, I miss Toys R Us. Yeah, I do too. It makes me angry to think we don't have Toys R Us. Legitimately, not like an aisle in a Macy's or whatever. When I see Canadian YouTube channels where they go into Toys R Us stores, I'm like, oh, Really, you guys, you take that for granted. Oh, God. A real toy store. You can just go into a store and do all this stuff. So yeah, I think that's a sign of the apocalypse. When we lost Toys R Us, I think that was a sign that we were in decline. Mick, Raymond, I finally found a Remco monster for 9-inch Uni Monsters. Really? So did you find it like at a show, or did you get it off eBay, or how did you find it? Monsterized Bat Fan, Ray, will you do an updated episode of Dragon Riders of the Styx? Also Arco, the Other World. I don't have Arco figures. By the time I got interested in the Arco stuff, it was already too expensive. It's bizarre how expensive the Arco stuff is. So no, I don't collect Arco. Dragon Riders, yeah, I thought about maybe visiting those. I wish I had something more to offer beyond what was in the original episode. Like if I could get one or two of the vehicles or something. I hate to just say, here are these figures again, but I might revisit those. Mick, all I got to say, Raymond, Miss Dead 13 at Monsterpalooza, 12-inch wink wink. Mick, I don't know what you're saying. What are you talking about? All I gotta say, Raymond, Miss Dead 13 at Monsterpalooza, 12-inch wink wink. Oh, 2012. Oh, okay. Now I see what you're saying. Oh, okay. We don't need to talk about that. Okay. All right, Michael Carl. My sister gave me some stars for Christmas one year. I didn't like them, but I wish I would have kept them. I had the Tomlin famous Monsters of Legend as a kid. I still have my childhood ones, so I had those, and I did not have the Star Raiders as a child. I had the monsters. Evil Face. Super 7's making O-Ring Universal Monster figures. Yeah. We'll see about how those. I really don't want to start another. I mean, we've got so many Super 7 Universal Monsters. Okay, so now they're O-Ring. Okay, and now they look a little better. Okay, so I'm going to buy all these characters again from the same company. I don't know. We'll see when they come out. Bud Malone. I still have my Shogun Godzilla and Rodan, also Grigori Bat. Found that they were all on the same catalog page while I was searching vintage toy catalogs. Yeah, if it's the page I'm thinking of, I think I own just about everything that's on that page. Because I remember looking at, there was a catalog page, and I think it's the one you're talking about, where I was thinking, what on this page do I not own? I don't remember if there's like one thing on the page, like, oh, I have to get that. I want everything on that page. I had all, if not everything, almost everything that was on that page. Let's see here. Gary, I know you have Toys R Us in Canada. I know. I was just saying, I'm rather disgusted with the Canadians who have Toys R Us and we don't. Bromide 01. I love the Dragon Riders of the Styx DFC Armament style sets. Yosemite Sam Super 7 is floundering. Yeah, Super 7. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not into Super 7 these days. Grumpy Gregory. Do you own anything from James Gorman? I don't know who that is. Is that a customizer? I don't know. Mick, you do still have Mego Mad Monsters. I have the 4 original ones loose in nice condition. I used to have more. I sold those, so now all I have now are just one loose set, one loose example of each of the 4. I would a solid box set again. I don't need window box, a card. Nah, you know, I don't need all that. I would like to have the 4 characters in solid boxes again. I used to sold them. I'd like to get that back. I feel like I need to have that in the collection. But I've got them loose. And let's see. I'm going to talk amongst yourselves for a second. I'm going to get something Randatti related, something Topstone related. I'll be right back. All right. Well, since we were talking about Topstone, so I was saying, yes, at the top of the catalog page was the Rumco monsters. I had them as well, minus the Monsterizer. It would be nice to see Mego release the Mad Monsters. Yeah, isn't it? Well, okay. You would think Mego would release the Mad Monsters, of course. That's kind of like one of the bread and butter items. There was an interview, I think it was with Paul from Mego. I don't remember who. It was like some of the Mego people were in this interview. I don't know if it was like a live stream or what, and or maybe it was a discussion online, but it was in the last several months. And someone asked about the Mad Monsters. I want to say this was Dr. Mego who responded. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but it was one of the people who run the current Mego, and he said he didn't like the Mad Monsters, didn't think they were very good, didn't like the designs, and that's why they hadn't put them back out. And I thought, what? I mean, I think they're classic designs. They're very, very Mego, more so than a more universal kind of a design would have been. I think they got Mego written all over them, and they're iconic. They're an iconic part of Mego's history. I think there's a big demand for a faithful recreation of the Mad Monsters. I know we had other recreations of them over the years, and I haven't liked any of the attempts by other companies, like Figures Toy Company, to bring them back. I just don't think they ever look right when they remake them. And I don't know if an official Mego remake would look better or not, but it feels like we ought to have already gotten those. It's kind of strange we haven't, but now I understand why that people, in the decision making, don't like them. Okay, and I certainly prefer Azrac Hamway or Lincoln or other monsters, but the Mad Monsters they're iconic. I mean, they're one of the foundational sets of Mego history, along with the superheroes and Star Trek and apes, the monsters, of course. So I find that decision making kind of bizarre. I really just sort of shake my head when I hear that, and it's like another reason why I'm not excited about Mego, new Mego. Just if you do what they want to do, I'll do what I want to do, and if they did remake Mad Monsters and they looked good, I think I would buy a set, yes. But if they look like some of the other attempts to remake them in the last 20 years, no. They'd really have to just nail it exactly right. I'm much more interested in buying more vintage ones. Like I said, a solid box set. I used to have a really solid box set, and I had a crispy Wolfman, and I don't have any of that anymore. So I'm much more interested in a vintage solid box set and reacquiring that instead of recreations. Oh, let's see. Monster X Batman, Bromide, Rowan. I used to have a playset of the Dragon Riders Armament style. Yeah. Yeah, I had something like that I sold. I don't remember if it said Dragon Riders on or not, but there were several sets like that. I sold it a long time ago, but it had the playmat, and it had some kind of a fort, had dragons and monsters and stuff. It was a nice little set, and I sold that several years ago, a long time ago. I think long before I ever had my YouTube show. Nick, Figures Toy Company did release the Mad Monster. Yeah, I know. That's what I was talking about. I didn't like those. The Figures Toy Company, there was at least 2 reissues of the Mad Monsters in the 2000s, and I did not like either one. I do have, I think I saw a Svengoolie set. It's like a multi-figure Svengoolie set, and it's got the Mad Monster, Frankenstein, Mummy, and I want to say Dracula, I think, and it doesn't. I don't think it has the Wolfman. There's one character missing. I think it's the Wolfman, and it's got Svengoolie included. So I have that as far as reissued Mad Monsters, and I love Svengoolie, that figure, but the other monsters, like, yeah, okay, whatever. I would have rather seen Universal style monsters included with Svengoolie. But no, I did not like the Figures Toy Company reissues of the Mad Monsters, any of them. They just don't look right. They don't look like, they look weird. They don't look like the originals. I don't know why. Why is it so hard to get that right? I don't know. Let's see. Well, I like Brian's new Lincoln monsters. Okay, those are a good example of how to capture the feel of the original, but in a modern format. So they look like modern figures, but they also look like Lincoln monsters. You know, it's the whole package. They look modern. They look legitimate, like toys. They don't look like something someone put together in their basement. They look like toys, and they capture the Lincoln style while being modern. So that's a good aesthetic. That's the construction, the design, everything. The only thing I would have preferred is maybe Dracula had a longer jacket. I'm not too crazy about the tuxedo style Dracula. Other than that, I think they did a good job. Brian and his associates put that together. So a Mad Monster set that was sort of in that vein, that really captured the essence of those figures, but sort of reinterpreted them in the reinterpreted them in a modern style, but was true to the feel and the aesthetic of the originals. Good. But can we please have squishy heads? Finally, nobody makes squishy heads anymore. What is that? Why can't we squish the heads? I mean, come on. Can you really call it an 8-inch figure if you can't squish the head? Migos, the new ones, you can't squish the heads. NECA can't squish the heads. All of these custom figures can't squish. Figures Toy Company, I don't think you can squish those heads, can you? You can't squish heads anymore. We need squishy heads. Let's see. Monsters Bad fans. Did you watch Jaws on NBC? No. I was more worried about like war and other stuff. What was that last night? Because I was doing a video conference last night. So if it was on last night, that's why I didn't see it. But also I've been watching, I don't watch TV. I watch a lot of stuff on my phone. And I'm watching the news a lot. Felt like a throwback to the good old days when the major networks would show movies. Yes. And it was a big deal. Yeah. I mean, they don't have that anymore where the whole country sits down together and watches a movie on network television, and everyone watches the same thing at the same time, and they have they have commercial interruptions. Mick, it's weird. Classic TV Toys released them 20 years ago with Red Dragon, Blue Frankenstein head sculpts. Right. And I think Figures Toy Company and Classic TV Toys are basically the same company. And I didn't like either of those reissues. They just did not look right. I don't know why, but they didn't look right. Feudal Chips, Mego should be wanting to please the customer, not making them add monsters because of personal preferences is nonsense. I'd say, in light of some of the choices of what they do make, what they do choose to make. But if they don't like them, maybe it's just as well they don't make them. Because if they don't like them, then maybe they wouldn't turn out well. But I'm not vibing. I'm not vibing with Mego. So I want to buy stuff I vibe with. I'm not vibing with it. Not that I vibe with NECA, but actually aesthetically, I can't fault NECA aesthetically. I mean, I don't know about the people running the company, but the artists, I can't really fault them. I mean, the sculpts look great, and the figures of the costumes look great, and those Halloween kids look great, and that Jaws game looks great, and it looks great. So, and I like that they have professional package illustrations, whether they're photos or paintings. They're professional, industrial, commercial illustration. They don't look homemade. They don't look slapped together. They're solid, professional presentation. The packaging is important. And I like NECA packaging. And I like Super 7 packaging more than the figures. Super 7, the toys are sometimes kind of weak. But the cards, talking about the card figure, Super 7 card art, I think it's all by Ed Repka, isn't it? Card art looks great because they have a superb illustrator doing the art. So I like high quality illustration and high quality commercial design on my toy packaging. I like professional commercial illustration on my toy packaging. Like we were just looking at that Imperial box. That's very professional. That's of its time. That's grown up toy packaging design, where the grown-ups came and rolled up their sleeves and came into the room and went to work and delivered serious products to put on a toy shelf to sell to kids. Plus, the artwork of the recent Mad Monsters didn't capture the original art, Moro's art. So what product used, are you talking about Figures Toy Company? Because I thought they did use the original art for those. Also weird, both figures, you're talking about the red and blue Mad Monsters, difficult to find. I used to have an original Mego red hair Dracula. And back then, just like I just keep saying the same thing, back then, nobody cared. Nobody cared. Like when I had that window boxed Azrak Hamway, now we know it's Soma Dracula. So I had an Azrak Hamway Dracula in a window box. And nobody cared back then. Now that would be worth thousands of dollars. Back then, nobody cared. I had a red-haired Mego Dracula. Nobody cared. I got it for a few bucks. I don't know. I mean, a few bucks. It was well under 100. I don't know if it was 50 bucks, 75 bucks. Nobody cared. So I had a lot of this stuff back in the day, and nobody cared. Let's see. Bud Malone raised that prop behind you based on a Teenage Frankenstein. Prop behind me based on the monster? No, that's a Keith Ward Topstone illustration. Teenage Frankenstein actually came out after the Topstone Shock Monster. So Topstone Shock Monster was copyrighted a year before Teenage Frankenstein was released. So it predates Teenage Frankenstein. Shock Monster, copyrighted in 1954. And you can actually look up the copyright date for Topstone. They called it Horror. They didn't call it Shock Monster, but that design, all their Keith Ward's major designs, his characters were copyrighted. And you can look up those dates. And Shock Monsters from 54. Let's see. Or How to Make a Monster. Still talking about Teenage Frankenstein. Yeah, no. If anything, Teenage Frankenstein might have been. Where is it? There it is. Might have been influenced by the Shock. Yosemite Sam's. I still say A-High. A-High were my favorite. Still are. Yeah, those are my favorite monster toys. The Azrael Camway International Super Monsters line. Those are my favorite classic monster toys. And I don't know, I guess Lincoln's might be second to them. Yeah. Oh, it's Danielle. Hello. Whenever Danielle comes again, oh, it's Danielle. Excited. Hi, Ray. Great show. I stopped buying Mego Super 7 figure a while ago. I still get the NECA monster figures, which look incredible, although they always fall over since I display them loose. See, I've never tried to display those things. I did open up, I was talking about Sideshow earlier, and I was saying how Sideshow would send me one of everything they made. And then I would also buy it at the store on top of that. So I have, gosh, multiples of many of those Sideshow figures. And I did open one of each of those. So I have all the 8-inch Sideshow figures open and several of the 12-inch ones open. And I've got them carded in boxes as well. And everyone talked about how fragile the Sideshow figures are. I've only had one problem, and it was, at least so far, and it was a Wolfman, the 8-inch Wolfman. The arm fell off the elbow. And so far, I haven't looked at them lately. So far, that was the only problem I ever had with them falling apart. But I do understand they self-destruct after a while. And I've heard that complaint that Sideshow figures are difficult to stand up. I never had a problem standing them up. I used to have them all on display. Now I put them all away in a box. But this thing, I'm off on a tangent. The thing about the Sideshow 8-inch figures, that PVC they're made of shrinks over time. Not enough to really notice it visually, but just a little bit. It kind of contracts a little bit. And so those delicate little joints, which are built into the PVC, they don't have like rivets or anything. They have those thin little needle-thin pins and little like lead that snap the joints together. When the material contracts, it just spontaneously breaks. So I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, in time, they all might just fall apart. But I don't open the NECA stuff, so I don't know how hard it is to display that. But I can certainly believe, just looking at them, I can understand how they might be difficult to stand up. Bud is saying, okay, is that... Oh, that's about the Teenage Frankenstein. Mick, your live chat with Andy. Oh, live chat with Andy, Amy, Daniel, and Dr. Durant. Danielle and Dr. Durant. Was Brian in that one? I don't remember. Yeah, I'd like to have them all back on. I'd like to try to mix and match, not have just the same group in the same combination, but try to mix them around. I like Rudy Muniz again because he was kind of sick the day we did that, so I'd like to have him back. He's not sick, just to be fair to him, so he's in his proper element. Maybe just have him by himself because I think he's a fascinating guy with a lot of things to say. So I'd like to go to his Crimson Ghost Mask Room and just do a show from there. That'd be something just to look around, talk about stuff. I have a lot of friends with cool monster rooms. Andy, Matt, others. It would be nice to go to their homes and do a show from their home, looking at their collections, have them talk about it. Yes, Penny has a an awesome collection, and she's an awesome host as well. Monster Ice Bad Fan saying, to me, 8-inch Sideshow is so much more fun than NECA. Yeah, I would agree. They're more toy-like, or as Brian would say, toyetic. They're more toyetic than the NECA figures. I do prefer the Sideshow over the NECA figures because they still have that little bit of a toy-like quality. They have the best of both worlds. They're realistic looking, they're serious looking, but they're also still toys. They're like right on that cusp of when the last bit of the toy industry was still sort of having kids in mind. Because remember, the Sideshow stuff was sold at Toys R Us. So they were sold in a toy store, in the toy aisles. And they still have that 1 foot in the world of kids' toys. But they're obviously aimed at older collectors, mostly, I think. So they have that combination. They're like the last gasp of the child-centric toy world. I guess the last classic Universal Monster toy line that was really a kid's line would be the Hasbro 12-inch. Even those were sort of collector-oriented too. So both those, the Hasbro and the Sideshow, they're like the last gasp of back when kids, toys were still sort of, those kinds of toys were marketed to kids, but also they're transitioning to marketing towards adults. So they're marketing both those lines, both adults and children. You can tell. Whereas the NECA figures are strictly for adults. Those are not for kids. Those are for grown-ups. Yeah. So Sideshow, you're saying, Monster Ice Bat Fan, Sideshow looks more like larger than life characters and not so sterile. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I do think that the legendary, iconic quality of those characters, the larger than life quality of those characters is realized in Sideshow. But I remember even back then, people were complaining that the Sideshow figures were kind of sterile. That they look like garage kits or something like that. They're too grown up. So even back then, people were making the same complaint about Sideshow back then. Mick, hopefully one day I can meet Penny Driffle. I've met her, but it's been, gosh, how many years since I saw her in person. I would very much like to see Penny. Her real name's Danielle. See Danielle in person again, or not at a show where everyone's busy. But I've been wanting to go to the Northeast to do some more research on Topstone, and maybe that would, if I could ever get that trip together, that would be a time where I could make a little excursion, a little side trip to go visit Danielle if she's got time. Yosemite Sam, I found those 12-inch Hasbro figures at Big Lots in the early 2000s. Yeah, that makes sense. Phil Chips, the lack of Toys R Us is going to put the nail in the coffin for future toy collectors. Going to a toy section while mom gets detergent isn't creating amazing memories. You're talking about going to like Target or Walmart while your mom gets, well, not your mom maybe, but while a child's mom gets detergent and the child goes to the toy department. Do parents even let their kids go to the toy department by themselves in this crazy world? I mean, I don't even know if parents let their kids separate from them. I mean, when I was a kid, as soon as you walked into the store, you scattered. And I would be in the toy aisle, and then my parents would be like, looking around, where are we? And sometimes they have to get the store to say over the PA, well, Raymond Castillo, please come to the front. Your mom is waiting for you. Does that even happen? When was the last time you heard at a Target or Walmart someone come over to the PA say, so-and-so child, your mom or dad are waiting for you at the front of the store? When was the last time you heard that? It doesn't happen anymore because I don't think parents let their kids out of their sight. I don't think they let them get 12 inches away from them. I don't think they let them go into the next aisle. I think they keep them. And no, that's not good for them. Believe me, when we were kids, there were predators, there were bad people. There's probably more bad stuff back then. There's probably more danger back then. We just weren't coddled. We weren't fragile. On Gen X, we are feral. Our parents, they had to come with us to the store because we couldn't drive. We couldn't walk to the store, but we did. If it was from walking distance, we would walk to a store. We would drive our bikes all over the neighborhood into the next neighborhood, far from home. We didn't even know where we were. Stay out all day into the night. Go exploring in the woods. We would go exploring in the sewers, like the sewer system, like from a movie, like something from Alligator or Ben, or one of those movies. In a sewer, we would go spelunking in the sewers, under the neighborhoods. We would go all kinds of places, and our parents didn't know where we were. They had no idea. The way they found out, we didn't have phones, so the way they found out where we were, they'd walk outside and say, "Raymond! Raymond, where are you? Raymond!" And just yell out enough to hear a mile away. And we knew when the street lights came on, like street lights. I was like, danger, danger! I have to go home. But so it was very different then. Now I don't even think parents let their kids go to the toy section unattended. Yes, Danielle, we should go look. I want to do a Momo episode where I actually go look for Momo. I want to go to the place where Momo was seen, and there's a little Momo museum. And kind of like I did the Boggy Creek episode, I'd like to do that for Momo. But I'm not an outdoorsman. I don't like ticks and Lyme disease. I don't like mosquito bites. I don't like rattlesnakes. I don't like any of that. I don't like sweat. I don't like. I'm like Thurston Howell III. Like, oh, is that perspiration? Oh dear. So I don't. So, but I can overcome these things. I can wear like a safari outfit, a hat and like a screen, and gloves, and go looking for Momo. Daniel saying the last analog generation. Yes, we are definitely analog. Michael Carl. It sounds like Michael Carl. You should have your own clothing label. Michael Carl. It should be a clothing label. I see more adults in the toy section than kids anymore. Yes. Monsterized Bat Fan. Very interesting that those were made by Sideshow back then. They were. Same complaints you hear about NECA, you heard about Sideshow then. So based on that, I'm sure I'll look back on NECA and relate more to them in a nostalgic way. Probably. I'm sure, even things like, Mego and Super 7, all that, will probably have nostalgic feelings about that in 20 years if we're still alive. Mick, come to Crypticon, Kansas City this year, Danielle. Penny, that's Danielle. Gen X, we were feral, analog generation, Yosemite Sam. I got that all when one of my snakes escaped. Oh. Like when you were a kid, snakes, they would get away. Your mom would yell like that. Bud Malone, remember going to my Woolworths on my bike in the early 70s to get Ben Cooper jigglers out the wooden bins. I didn't go to Woolworths on my bike, but I sure remember going to Woolworths. And we didn't have wooden bins, though. For Ben Cooper, we had the display boxes, the counter display box, like that Imperial one I showed earlier. But I definitely remember the Ben Coopers. Mostly at Ben Franklin's, where I found most of my Ben Cooper toys. Bud Malone, Jigglers, yes. McC, Gen X are resilient, yes. Monsterized Batman, Jigglers, exclamation. I'm very excited about Jigglers. Let me show you something Randatti. People, like Order 66. Look out. Okay, so this is a Randatti. We know what a Randatti looks like. Gosh, this is disorienting. I can't tell what's right and what's left on this screen. So this is for the incense burner. It should have like a little metal plate in there. It doesn't. Now, some of you might be aware that I was contacted a few months ago by a person who came into possession of all of the original Randatti molds and a lot of unsold store stock. So a bunch of skulls and tombstones and plaques and figurines, both finished ones, like this is one of the ones from that find. Finished ones like this that were completely finished, but also unfired ones, just like white, unfired, unpainted, but also molds, all the original Randatti molds. And they had been shed for who knows how long, since the mid 90s, I guess. And the shed was falling over. And I don't remember the whole story of how this person came in contact with the people who owned the shed. It was kind of like when the Topstone masters were rescued by a collector named George Ligori about 25 years ago. Someone said, hey, we got these weird molds and things in this upper room of this industrial building. They don't belong to us. We need someone to come get them. We're going to throw them away. And George just happened to be close by and saw the post in a mass group. And so I'll get them. And he drove his pickup and put as many as he could in the back of his truck, drove home. Either came back the next day or asked about coming back the next day and was told, no, we threw out whatever you didn't take. So that's why we still have Topstone masters and some of the original molds today. It's because of George rescuing that stuff from this building. And I've seen the building where they were just going to get tossed out. All right, so it was a situation where there were these Randatti molds, this whole history of the Randatti company right here in this dilapidated shack. How did they get there? I mean, that's a whole other story. And this guy who had nothing to do with Randatti or collecting or anything was just by chance was in a position to take these and said, well, okay. I mean, it seemed like a shame to throw them away, and hauled them back to his house. And they said, what is all this stuff? And he went online and he found my video where I talk about Randatti. And he said, oh, that's what it is. That's what I've got. This is all Randatti. This is the original molds and everything. And he didn't know what to do. So he contacted me. And, I could have said, oh, yeah, I'll take off your hands that for about $1,000 for everything. And instead, he wanted help. So I said, okay, I'll help you. I got him in touch with Justin Scard, who's the friend who got me those Epic Universe toys I showed earlier. And because I know he was local to where this guy was, and he had the means to just go there and get the stuff. And he was an expert on Disney theme park memorabilia particularly. And he was plugged into the Disney theme park community and to the auction houses and collectors. So he was the best person to this and to take care of it. So he got over there and he assessed what this guy had, and it was an amazing find. And he put this guy in touch with some auction houses. The guy chose the one he wanted, and then the stuff was auctioned. Now, I think if you're on my one here, I would think would be on the Basement of Horror Facebook group. If not, get on there. But make sure you answer the security questions. Every day I have people trying to join that group, and they don't answer the security questions. I don't know if they're real people. I don't know what's going on, but I just reject. I'm not letting anybody in unless they answer the security questions. So answer the security questions if you want in that group. But anyway, in that group, we talked about this, and I posted some videos that Justin put together, and I posted links to this auction. The auction's over. It didn't go for as much as you might have thought because the auction house grouped them all in these large lots that no normal person could have or had the space to store all the stuff. I wish they had broken it up into small lots, then I would have bid on some of it. And I'm sure a lot of other people would have. So I was disappointed in the way the auction house handled that. I wish they'd broken it up a little bit. But I know there was stuff that I found that were not in those auctions. So I have not talked to him since then. I mean, I'm just kind of careful about how I deal with him. I don't want to do anything inappropriate. You know, I don't want to take advantage of him or anything. But I know he had stuff that were not in those auctions. And I know Justin got some of the tiki stuff. I don't know exactly what he got, but some of the tiki molds, because he's all in the tiki. That's a big thing with Justin. Okay, I didn't ask for anything from this deal. I just kind of sat back and tried to see if this guy appreciated what I was doing, would he do anything for me? I kind of left it in his hands. So after it was all said and done, he did want to give me some things, and he gave me this, which is okay. You know, it's cute. I probably thought he thought this would be cute. Okay, it's an incense burner. All right. He gave me one of the unfired big skulls, but because it wasn't fired, it's very fragile. He didn't know how to pack that, so it did not survive shipping, unfortunately. I was very sad to see that not make it. When it arrived, I still have the pieces. I might try to restore it someday. I don't know if it can be salvaged, but that was sad. But then there was one thing I wanted from that find more than anything else, and I didn't tell him that's what I wanted. I didn't tell him anything. I was leaving this up to his generosity, whatever he thought was appropriate, like a tip at a restaurant. And I don't know, psychically, he sent me the one thing I most wanted out of all that. So, and I'm going to put gloves on it because it's fragile, because it's covered with soot. It's like covered with some kind of a almost tar-like material. Oh gosh, I got two of the same hand. I'm going to have to put this glove on backwards. There. So it's covered in a kind of a dirty tar-like stuff. All right. Put this microphone back. Hope you can still hear me. This is filthy because it's from that shed. Okay. Now this looks heavy and sticky. Yikes. Pieces are coming off. It's like it's melting. I don't know what's going on. What is all that? That's a mold. What is it? I don't know what to do with this or how to take care of it. Anyway, this is a Randatti mold. And that is the mold for the hairy Ivan. So if I was going to have just one thing that I find, that's what I wanted, the hairy Ivan mold. So in there, you can tell it's hairy Ivan because of those two tabs that are sticking out there. That's where the rope goes through the head. So this is the mold. And that's my favorite Randatti thing, the hairy Ivan. So I was going to have just one thing. That's what I wanted, hairy Ivan mold. And you can tell this is the green ones are the earlier Randatti molds. So they had some like a tan or a brown color. They came, I think those came a little later. The original ones are these green ones. This is heavy. And I don't know what's happening there. I don't know how to clean this. I'm afraid to let anything touch it. I don't know. It's kind of sticky, kind of gooey. It's survived this long. I hope it continues to survive. I don't want it to die on my watch. But it's made of, I think it's made of urethane. Someone said it was silicone. I don't think it's silicone. I think it's urethane. They were I don't think they were using silicone back then for stuff like this. I think it's urethane. The Topstone masters are also made of urethane. Topstone masters become crystallized. They don't melt like this. They become crystallized. I don't know what to do about this as far as care. I'm kind of concerned how to preserve this. I wonder about the rest of the stuff in that auction. What kind of condition it's in. I don't know. And I think it's got fumes, because even though I don't have a sense of smell because of health problems from years ago, it took away my sense of smell. But I know there's fumes, because I can just sense there's fumes coming out of this. So I'm going to put this back. I don't know what to do with this to take care of it. I don't know what the proper way of caring for this would be. But it's obviously it's ancient, and it seems like it's melting. I don't know if that goo is coming from it or if that's something that got on it. This was in a shed out in the heat, like in the Southwest, and it's covered in like a sooty tar kind of stuff that just, if you touch it, just gets off on your hands. I don't know. I'm not sure what to do with this, so I just. And one of these days, I want to look at that. Gosh, yikes! So it's filthy. I don't know what would be a proper way to clean that. I have no idea. Yuck. Gross. But I'm glad I have it. It's a mess, but I'm glad I have it. So that's Harry Ivan mold. It would be nice to have a few more things, and I'm going to contact the guy at some point, just see. So I know he had stuff that were not in those options, and see what's left, if anything. So let's catch up with these comments. Fiddle Chips, do you think adults will collect toys in the future, or are all these figures future collectors' plates? Oh, you mean, okay. I have no idea what collectors are going to want in the future, or even if there's going to be collecting in the future. I don't know. I don't care at this point. I don't know. I mean, I'm at an age where there's, the road ahead is shorter than the road behind. I'm not going to worry about it. Nick, the NECA Ben Cooper Collegeville mix-up is frustrating. Oh, because they have Collegeville costumes and Ben Cooper boxes and so on. Yeah, they're not very careful with keeping that straight. I don't think they really care very much, frankly. I don't think that's important to them. And I also think there's an aesthetic choice to brand them as Ben Cooper, because they own both. They own Ben Cooper, they own Collegeville. NECA owns those, so they can do whatever they want. It's like Trick or Treat Studios now owns Topstone. So if they wanted, they could release a Don Post character as a Topstone, or a Topstone character as a Don Post, because they own both. They own both those brand names and the associated IPs. So I think NECA can do with Ben Cooper and Collegeville whatever they want, and I think they think it's more valuable to just call it all Ben Cooper, and for the most part, and just release it branded as Ben Cooper, even though maybe they know a particular costume is really Collegeville. I think it just makes more sense to them to just call it Ben Cooper for branding purposes. Gamera, oh God, I remember Ben Franklin. We used to buy our Halloween costumes there. Yeah, Ben Franklin was very important to me. And, I wanted to do an episode where I went back to some of these stores from my youth and just revisited them, see what they're like today. And that episode would be impossible to do because everything's changed so much. Like the Ben Franklin store where I used to go, there's still a storefront there, but inside is completely different. And there's like the Skags and Woolworths and all these other obscure names that are lost to the past. Those stores, the footprint isn't, even if the buildings are still standing, the footprint isn't even the same. You couldn't even go in there and say, well, this is where the toy aisle was. It's not, it's so different. I mean, one is like some kind of a spa, another was like a tire place, and then the old Kmart Kresge store where I got so many toys throughout my childhood, that is now a storage facility, like a self-storage. So I couldn't even go in there and walk around trying to find where the toy aisle was. The Venture store has been divided in half, and now part of it is a sporting goods store. But it's a smaller footprint, so I think where the toys actually were beyond where the back wall of the store is now. And some of these aren't even standing anymore. So it was disappointing. I did like a couple years ago drive around all these places trying to see where could I, for an episode, what was viable as far as going into one of these places and saying, okay, this used to be the Ben Franklin or the Venture or the whatever, and this is where the toys used to be. There was one store, I think it was Knights, where I bought Azrak Hamway Bendums, and that was the only place where I could go in to whatever the store is now. I think I was going to say a grocery store. I think it's more like a thrift store, like a Salvation Army type of a store. But I was able to go in there and find the spot where the aisle used to be, where the Azrak Hamway Bendum counter display box was, and say, okay, this is where the shelf was, this is where the Bendums were. So I'm standing in that spot. That's the only store that was like that, where it was still close enough to the footprint. It's building standing, and the interior footprint was still close enough that I could find that spot. But that's just one store. So that was disappointing that I couldn't do an episode like that. But it's changed so much. All of the stores are either completely gone or they've changed so much you can't even go in there and find where something used to be and say, okay, this used to be the aisle where the Legos were, where the Jigglers were, etc. Let's see here. Yosemite, how horrific. I did see that, very cool. Michael Carl, would you do a live stream with Lyle Blackburn and maybe talk about Bigfoot films, collectibles, and stories? Good, I hadn't thought of that. I like Lyle a lot. He's a cool guy. You know, when I had him on, I deliberately avoided cryptid stuff because I think he gets, I was going to say annoyed. He's not annoyed. I think he wants to keep that stuff separated. Like, for instance, he has a rock band, and apparently he doesn't sing any songs about Bigfoot or any of that because he wants to keep those parts of his life separate. So I just wanted to respect that. So we talked about, Universal Monster Toys and stuff. If he were up for that, it'd be fascinating to talk about Bigfoot and cryptid collectibles. He's maybe sold them now. He had a few things I would have liked to have owned. It's something that's not a very old collectible. I don't know if he still has it. The Monster Mart in Fouke used to have these Fouke Monster plush dolls. I was a local woman who sewed these and made these. And I wanted one of those. And by the time they were on my radar, they were sold out, and she wasn't making any more. I think she might have passed away. So they were gone. And he's got one of those. At least he used to. I don't know if he still does. But that's something I'd really like to have. Even though it's not from back in the day. It's not from the 70s. But still, I like it's such a cute toy. It's all fluffy. It's got the two eyes. It's cute. On the site, I need Child Life magazine from 1978. I think it's March. And the cover has like a science fiction style butterfly on the cover and two little kids in the foreground. Almost like a Mothra kind of design, but that's not what it is. I need that for an episode that is of a cryptid nature. And I've been trying to get that magazine. It's Child Life magazine, March. I think it's March. I didn't look this up ahead of time, but it's definitely 1978, and I think it's March 1978. And on the cover, it's got a butterfly. It's a science fiction themed illustration. It looks like a big butterfly, and I think it's two in the foreground. And there's a short story in there about giant butterflies and kids who ride on these giant butterflies. So that's what the illustration refers to. But inside is something cryptid related, and I need that for an episode. And that's one reason I didn't do the episode last year. And I guess I won't do it this year unless I need this. I want this magazine, hard copy, not online. I know I've got it from online. I want the real magazine in my hands. So you will see, if I can get that, you'll see another cryptid themed episode from me. But I need that magazine, Child Life magazine, March 1978, with a butterfly on the cover. Nobody has it. Nobody knows where to get it. You can find any other issue, any other month, any other year, whatever you want, but not that one, not the one I need. Oh, let's see here. Baby Neon, new to this channel, looks cool. Well, welcome. Thanks for dropping in. Hope you stay. Gamera, Michael Carl, that would be awesome. Carl, I think so. So you're talking about doing the episode with Lyle. Yeah, I mean, Lyle's a very busy guy. I try not to bug him too much. Very busy guy. But I think that would be, if you were up for that, that'd be a cool episode, sure. You know, Lyle's got a great collection. He's got a great general monster collection. And I know he's got cryptid stuff too. But when I see his collection, I see a more general kind of universal monsters type of collection. I know he's got the cryptid stuff, but I feel like maybe when it comes to collecting, maybe what he's really proud of is the more universal kind of collection. I don't know, just based on what he shows off online, it seems to be where he likes to present. But you know, that's something that would be cool to have him just, you know, cryptid theme. That'd be cool if you were up for that. Let's see what else we have here. Joseph Green would love to see a live stream with you and Tom Stockman. Mick, yes, Tom Stockman's collection. Yeah, Tom is local in my area, and you know, I used to get out more. I used to see Tom a lot. Tom moved, so you know, Tom had a big toy room, and then he moved, and then he moved again, and I don't know what his collection looks like these days. I don't know if he has a toy room like he used to, or what it looks like. His old toy room was, I was in it several times. It was a big, nice toy collection room where you could walk around and do an episode in it. But I don't know if he has that anymore because he's moved twice since then. And I'm not sure if he's built that room or not. Let's try his Bat Fan. Ray, would you ever do a Halloween episode on Halloween cutouts? Love the vintage cutouts of late 79s and 89s. Eureka, Glenn Strange. I don't have a lot of that. So no, because I don't have a lot of it. Not enough for an episode. I got a couple of interesting things, but not enough for an episode. Let's see what else we have. Gamera 977. Yeah, I've got about 50 left gloves. The right ones somehow always disappear. Yeah, I didn't know I had 2 right gloves. I guess that's what I had just now, right? Yeah, I didn't know that until I tried to put them on. Gamma. Oh wow. What is the oh wow about? Make some castings. I'd buy one. So we were talking about the Randatti. No, I'm not making any castings. No, the mold is an artifact. It's retired. It's not going to get used. I've got some Topstone masters. They're never going to have new molds made. Forget it. Once I get something like that, it's retired in my collection. It comes here for its retirement. It's deserved a rest. Anyone else getting a boatload of buffering, or is it just my connection? I don't know. Yosemite Sam probably decomposing. Probably. I don't know. I don't know what to do about it. Yosemite Sam A-highs will be $20 when grandkids get them. We'll see. I mean, monster stuff tends to be sort of transgenerational. A lot of young people like horror and monsters. So I don't know about that. I think there's a good chance that a lot of horror stuff, more so than other genres, will continue to be popular, because I know there's a lot of young people who like universal monsters and classic horror, even if they don't necessarily like the movies. And I'm not saying they don't, but they like the characters and designs and the idea behind them and what they represent. And there's a horror lifestyle that a lot of young people buy into, and they make it part of their identity. And so I think you'd be surprised how many young people know what an A-high is. And certainly they know stuff like Aurora models and things like that. So I don't know. Monster stuff might be more evergreen. It might have legs, might survive longer than something like G.I. Joe or whatever. Yosemite Sam, I worked at Ventures 1991. I worked at Target around that same time. Target store. John Gore's Skags reminds me of Mad Max. That Skag is floozy, they're gonna die. Skags was a real store. It was spelled with 2 G's. Scaggs. Skags. That was a real store. It was kind of like Ben Franklin, but I think it was just maybe a little upscale from Ben Franklin. That's another thing today. They don't really have those kind of mid-level stores. They've got Walmart and Target, and they got the dollar stores. I mean, there's not a lot in between anymore. Back in, once upon a time, you had little dollar stores and junk stores, and you had pharmacies that had nice toy departments. I remember the first time I ever saw an Aurora model kit. Like, it was an Aurora creature, the square bottle kit. First time I was even aware of such a thing was in a drugstore. And no, that drugstore doesn't exist anymore, because that's one of the ones I checked on. I remember where it was on the shelf. I remember seeing that for the first time, and I couldn't read, but I could read the word creature because I watched Creature Feature on TV, so I knew the word creature. I saw that on the box, and I picked that up. And I guess I was so little that little box is probably like this to me, and I was like, "What's this?" Because I had never seen a monster toy before. That was the first time I ever saw a monster toy. The first time that the idea they could make toys based on monsters was a new idea to me when I saw that. And it was in a drugstore. It was in I said a pharmacy, but back then a pharmacy wasn't like pharmacy at your grocery store where it was just like a desk. It was a drugstore. There was all kinds of departments in the drugstore, and they had models. And that's where I saw my first Aurora model, the creature. Bud Malone, my uncle, and I used to set up toy racks, the kind that spun around, mostly Adams gags like whoopee cushions and joy buzzer type stuff. Also some rack toys like A-High stuff back in the late 70s. Cool. Sounds like Brian's dad had some kinds of experiences, I think, with his dad. Yeah, I remember those kinds of items, those kinds of store displays. You know, this is John, you know of the YouTuber Grotu Orloff? His collection is pretty insane. No, I guess if I looked up Grotu Orloff, that's how I would find him. No, I know him. Mix's Tom Stockman has some collection videos on YouTube. Really, I don't know. I mean, I know some people have done videos on him. I didn't think he had his own channel. Bobby Carp, watching your show reminded me of the Remco Mini I had as a kid. I've been working on digital sculpting and 3D printing. I've been working on digital sculpting and 3D printing my work for 6 years. Your show inspired me to make a Wolfman. Well, thank you. I'm glad it inspired you. And if you're not in the Basement of Horror Facebook group, go in there and show off your Wolfman. But remember, if you're not a member already, when you try to join, answer the security questions. If nobody answers the security questions, then I don't want them in. That's why we've been hovering around 950 members for 2 or 3 years. It just kind of stays there, just because a lot of people try to get in, but they don't answer the security questions. I don't know what to do about that. Kathy Harris. Hello, Raymond. Have you ever been to Kokomo, Indiana? Well, I've been to Indiana. I've been to Indianapolis. But I don't recall ever being in Kokomo. No. What's in Kokomo? I guess perhaps you are in Kokomo. I'm not sure. But what else is in Kokomo that I should see? There's Dr. Durant. Hello. Greetings, Ray. Greetings, Dr. Durant. Joseph Green. Used to shop at Grandpa Pigeon's. There's another one from my youth. They had some cheap toys. Yes. Grandpa Pigeons. I remember that. So that's... Okay, so I was talking about this episode I wanted to do. So I found the spot where the Grandpa Pigeons from my youth stood, and now there's this very small building there. I'm thinking, was that the Grandpa Pigeons? Did it just seem bigger because I was young? Because I remember a much bigger store with a bigger parking lot. So I don't know if that's the same store that was Grandpa Pigeons. It couldn't be, because I remember Grandpa Pigeons being like Kmart or Venture or something of that size with a nice size parking lot. So I don't know. Maybe my memories are faulty. Maybe it was a little store. I don't know. So do you remember Grandpa Pigeons being a bigger store along the line, regular Venture or Kmart? Because I did go to the spot where my childhood Grandpa Pigeons used to be, and there's this little building and a kind of a little parking lot. I thought that couldn't be the same building, is it? But it was I was in the right spot. Let's see what else. Okay. Dr. Duran is talking to John. Michael Carl. Yeah, I bought a lot of stuff at drugstores for sure. Yeah, some of the members in the chat are talking about things like creature feature type weekend horror movie programs that they watched in their youth. Well, there's Joseph. Yeah, I remember it like Kmart. That's how I remember Grandpa Pigeons. I remember it being like Kmart of that size and that style of the store. So I'm thinking it must have been bulldozed over, and this smaller building is now in its place. I guess. So that's why I can't do that episode I was talking about earlier this evening, where I would go to all these different locations that used to be these stores I would visit in my youth, where I got all my toys, and see what they're like today, because they're not there anymore. Well, let me see. So I was going to show some Topstone stuff. No, my lips are dry. So I've been foaming lately. Well, yesterday, I guess. This is an example of a vintage Topstone that I foamed. So this is a Keith Ward Santa Claus. And this is what it looks like when you foam it. And this is hard. It's not soft, it's hard. It's rigid foam. So I had to prepare this thing by going inside the mask and taping it all around the edge. The camera's having trouble focusing. Taping it all around the edge, taping up the eyes and the nose. And they had a lot of weak spots and things. I had to patch that up so the foam wouldn't explode out of it. And then I used this rigid, two-part rigid expanding foam, and mix it up, pour it in there. And then I put another board with a plastic bag taped around it so that it wouldn't stick to the foam. Well, it actually still is stuck anyway. I put that on top of it to make the foam expand sideways so it would fill the sides of the mask. When you don't do that, it will fill the front area, but it won't fill the sides. And then you have this misshapen mask. You really need it to expand, not just out. You need it to expand sideways. So that's why you have to put pressure on the back so that it expands outward from the, towards the sides, fills the mask. So now I'm going to need to trim that, which is not easy because it's hard, and find a tube to stick in there. Where is it? It's the side. Just a tube to be like a, where is that? There, right in this area. This will be like a pour tube that'll stick inside of there. And then I'll pour more foam on that to hold it in place. And then put a wooden base, glue it to a wooden base, and paint the base of the tube black. And then we'll have a display piece that will be on a stand and will sit there like that. So this is a Keith Ward Topstone. This is a Keith Ward era Santa Claus sculpted by Keith Ward. Those are, when I like Topstone in general, but the reason I'm a fan of Topstone is Keith Ward. It's not their 80s, 90s stuff. It's the Keith Ward era, 50s into the 70s. And that's when they start transitioning away from Ward's designs into new designs in the 70s. And then in the 80s, they completely transitioned away to new sculpts that were not related to Keith Ward. So I like the Keith Ward stuff. And this looks like it's pretty early. I don't know if it's 50s, it's probably 60s, but I do think it's pre-70s. This is not a 70s mask. And you can see all the detail in there. Lots of detail in a Keith Ward sculpt. And the problem with foam is it will often shrink after you foam it. And I've experimented with a lot of different types of foam, trying to find one that doesn't shrink. And this is my first time using that particular brand of foam. And hopefully it won't shrink. And then I'll keep using that brand. And I've got something else Topstone related. Let me check the comments here. Kokomo Toys and Collectibles. Oh, so Kathy's saying Kokomo Toys and Collectibles. They have a good selection of vintage toys. Mick, I vaguely remember buying Colorform aliens in the early 70s. Yeah, I had Colorform's Outer Spacemen as a kid. I must have gotten them. I mean, obviously they were out of production when I got them, so they must have been clearance that hung around for a while. But I had Astro Nautilus was my favorite, and I had Alpha 7, and I had Zodiac. And I had the Space Marauders bendables, the little knockoff ones. So I had quite a few, I guess, come to think of it. Color Forms Art Aliens. I don't think I had Matt Mason. I don't think I had any of him. But I definitely had Color Forms Aliens. And that's one of the regrets of my collecting, that by the time I got to the point where I wanted to collect those, they were already so expensive. Back in the 90s, they were hard to find and expensive. So I've never really had the opportunity to collect mint on color Forms Aliens. I tried once. I got as far as 2 open carded aliens, a Colossus Rex and an Alpha 7 missing his helmet. And I just wasn't happy with open cards. So, and I wanted mint, sealed cards. And I ended up selling those. I just could never. And I also had a very nice Matt Mason Callisto, the green alien with the clear head. I mean, I had a case fresh Callisto that was just perfect on a card with all his accessories and everything. I sold him. I wish I still had him. He was really, really nice condition. I don't think I ever had Sco from Matt Mason. I don't think I ever had him. Could be wrong. I don't think. But as a collector, I had the Space Marauders on a card, a carded pair of Space Marauders, and it was on the yellow card. And there was a purple one on eBay, and it might still be there, but it's like $500. That's a lot of money. But I like the Space Marauder bendables, the little knockoff Color Forms Aliens bendable, the bendies, not the solid figurines, the rubber bendies. I don't think I'll ever have a Color Forms collection. I just can't pay the prices. I really want them on nice cards. Like Astronautilus, my favorite, everybody's favorite is Astronautilus. What is a nice carded Astronautilus selling for these days? Probably thousands, so forget that. I can't afford that. Yosemite Sam, man, that's creepy, referring to the Santa. John says, Santa looks great with the pure white background. Yeah. Well, he's going to come off of that eventually. Gamera, yeah, creepy Santa, but in great condition. Dr. Durant, you must have a great deal of patience to foam those masks. It takes a great deal of patience. Yes, it's very frustrating. Like one of the ones I did yesterday, the nose collapsed. So now you have to like chisel a tunnel from the back to the nose and carve that out and pour more foam in there to puff the nose. It's a pain in the neck. And then another one, the foam escaped from the rear and up the back. So I had to clean that up and sand the foam off and then had to repaint that section. And then another one, there were some little pinholes where the foam came out, but that's not a big deal. I could break those off. That's okay. But everything, it's always something. It's very rarely do they come out perfectly. And even if you do everything right, the foam will just decide to start shrinking. Sometimes it's months later that the foam shrinks. Sometimes years later, you'll notice that the mask is sort of contracted. So it's just frustrating as heck. Very frustrating. And yes, these masks are very floppy and thin and difficult to deal with. And half the time they're apart. It's difficult. I think Danielle was there. I saw Danielle somewhere. What happened to Danielle? There she is. Santa looks great. Thanks. Michael Carl, Chiller Theater, WPIX Channel 11, New York, New Jersey. I had Creature Feature and Chiller Theater. So Creature Feature on Channel 11 and Chiller Theater on Channel 30 in the St. Louis area. And I had Seymour Presents, Sinister Seymour. he was syndicated. And as a kid, I thought he was a St. Louis horror host. I didn't know he was syndicated. So I thought he was doing all that out of a St. Louis studio. But so I had Sinister Seymour, and I had Chiller Theater and Creature Feature, which did not have hosts. And then we had someone named Sugar Plum. I can't remember his real name. His stage name was Sugar Plum. He was a very flamboyant black man who dressed and acted flamboyantly, and so he would wear almost like a RuPaul kind of persona, and he would say, "Hey, Sugar Plums," that's his behavior, and he was like, "We got a great move for you today. We got the Curse of Bigfoot." He was always dressed in very loud, flamboyant clothes, and so he wasn't trying to be a horror. He was flamboyant. He was very flamboyant, and that was in the 70s. And I don't think he's still alive. He's still around, but I think he's actually a fairly conservative person. I don't think, at least later in life, he was anything like his stage persona, his TV persona in the 70s. I think he became a very conservative, buttoned up sort of person later on. Back then, he was very cool and strange and very loud and flamboyant and colorful. So he was a local movie host, but he wasn't exactly a horror host. He hosted horror, but he also hosted non-horror stuff. And he didn't try to make it like a haunted house, sort of a thing. But he would show like Paul Naschy movies and independent, more like independent exploitation type stuff on his show. Like Curse of Bigfoot was one that he did. He did Curse of Bigfoot. He had a big like fake feet that he was wearing, and he like zoomed down to his feet stomping. It's weird. But if anyone remembers Sugar Plum, that was his name, and he would call the viewers Sugar Plums. I just remember that. Hey, Sugar Plums, love you to be here. Blah 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 blah. I can't remember his catchphrases, but he had that big blah persona. Sinister Seymour, if you don't know who he had a black cape and a black hat. He was all black, looked like more like a traditional horror type character. And he produced his show in Los Angeles, and he was syndicated out of Los Angeles. Creature Feature didn't have a host. It had an illustration of the Night Gallery Pickman's model, like a publicity photo of that creature from Pickman's model, that monster, and the camera would tilt up from the feet of this monster to its face very slowly, as it had these sort of solarization effects, changing colors, and it had this pounding music, like a drum, boom, 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 bum, 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 with the drums and brass, and then Creature Feature would come in the middle of that, and then it would pan up to his face, this Pickman's model monster, and then would turn full color, and solarization effects would stop and just settle on his face, and then the music would settle on his face. And that opening scared me. I always had to hide behind the couch when that opening started. And I didn't know what that monster was. Now I know it's Pickman's model. I've never seen that opening since I was a kid. I would love to see that. I don't know if it's in an archive somewhere. I would love to see that opening again. That was Channel 11, Creature Feature. Channel 30 had Chiller Theater, and they used the Jerry Goldsmith music from the Twilight Zone episode The Invaders. That was also used in Kingdom of Spiders. That piano, the strings come on. That was the theme they used. And they had this weird cloud, like a nighttime sky with a cloud that almost looked like an octopus, like an eye in it, and like almost like tentacles. But it was a cloud. It was weird. And I'd zoom in on what was sort of like the eye of this cloud, and would spin around and around as this dun 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 music, and then the name Chiller Theater would be written like animated, like someone was writing it on the screen in cursive. Chiller Theater. I'd love to see that opening again. So that was my creature feature, Chiller Theater and Sugar Plum and Sinister Seymour as a kid. That's what I watched. What else we got? I'm behind here. I had something else Topstone related to show you. Where am I? Yosemite Sam, does it come with an axe? The Santa? No, it's just a Santa. And I did a video. If you look at Tomb of the Topstones, those videos, there's a Santa episode. And I'm pretty sure that Santa, it's not foamed, but it's in there. I think it's in that episode. And you'll see some other Santas. John Goris, ever experiment with animation? No. 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 I think I know my limitations in animation. Yeah. I'd be more interested in really. So as a kid, I did experiment with stop motion animation, not as an adult. Kathy Harris, I started collecting monster and horror action figures and masks. Cool. How long ago? Oh, Kathy's saying watching my show. So my show inspired you to do that? Awesome. So tell us how long, and is there anything you've got that you're particularly excited about? Dr. Durant, it's amazing any of those survived. He's talking about the masks. The rubber masks I had as a kid disintegrated. Yes, mine did too. I had Topstones as a kid and they disintegrated. None of them survived. I had them in the toy box with my toys, and they all just turned into rubber clumps. Ski 2010. Is that what it's? Is it SKI or SKL? Hello from New York. Hello. Mick, I have a question. Why is the AJ Renzi Monster card so expensive and difficult to find when other Renzi products, King Kong, Hulk, Spider-Man, are more accessible? So you mean the Monster Mobile, right? The car. I don't know. I have no idea. It is hard to find. I don't know why. Maybe it wasn't made very long. I don't know. And you know, it's blow mold, so it shouldn't deteriorate, shouldn't disintegrate. I mean, the monsters, you know, in the seats, they might get lost. The wheels might come off, but you'd think the car itself would still be there, and you can replace the wheels because there are other Renzi cars that use the same wheels. And they do, at least they used to have replacement resin monsters that you could stick in there. And you have to be careful buying a Renzi monster car on eBay and make sure that the monsters are original, because sometimes they're not. Let's see here. Lucas Smith. Hello. The Grow 2 Orloff TV show. Hello, hello, Grow 2. Or is it Grow 2? Dr. Orloff. Yosemite Sam. Lots of folks are finding crazy stuff at estate sales. We're dying off. Oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah, and because we're so weird and geeky, we're not married. No one wants to marry us. That's not true. I think actually most monster collectors I know are family people, and they have wives or husbands and families. Not me. Not me, but other people do. But if you die and either you don't have a family or they don't understand your hobby, then it all just gets scattered to the winds. Dr. Durant says monsters are eternal. Yes, monsters are eternal. Monsterized Bat fan. Ray, do you have the creature feature card? No. I do not. I don't collect those kinds of cards, really. Czar. Does anybody remember Grimsley's Fright Night? I've heard of that. I don't know what market that was in. That I'm assuming it's a TV horror host, right? Yeah, I don't know what market Grimsley was in, but I never saw him. Joseph Green, Sugar Plum. Sounds like Gentry Trotter and KP St. Louis also had Baron von Crypt. Yeah, I think that's him. Gentry Trotter. That's probably him. So what do you remember about him? Am I describing him correctly? Because he became rather conservative later in his demeanor, I think. He stayed in the business, and when I saw him later in life, he's always in a suit and a tie and acting very serious. I think he got kind of political later. But in the 70s, he was flame on. He was a character. Yeah, now Baron von Crypt, I've heard of him, but I never saw Baron von Crypt. And he was, that era, I should have, but I never did. I saw Seymour. Maybe I was busy watching Seymour when Baron von Crypt was on. But no, I never saw Baron von Crypt. Billy is sniffing at that Santa. Let's see here. Out here we had Count Gore Duval. Yeah, I mean, everyone had their own horror hosts all over the country. Seymour was great. I liked Commander USA. He was like a brain-damaged blue-collar superhero host. Vic Rule 666. Good evening. Good evening. Hello to you. Bud Malone. The others was Quinn Martin production. Great show. The aliens were turned red. No. I mean, the Twilight Zone invaders with the little robot. They're really astronauts, but we don't know that. And Agnes Moorehead being harassed by these little robots. That's the invaders I was talking about with the Jerry Goldsmith score. That's what was used as the music for Chiller Theater in the St. Louis market. Chet says, my Topstone videos are great. Thank you. Oh, there's Mikey. Hello, Mikey. Hi, Raymond. It's me, Mikey Severe. We're still undead here. Hello, Mikey. How you doing? Hey, your favorite Santa. I think you missed it. I know you like this. That's your favorite mask, right? I knew you like that mask. Yeah, oh, hello, Mikey. Oh. I know you're fond of that mask. Oh. Almost destroying them. See, this stuff is so hard to take care of. When you foam those things, if you dent it, the dent doesn't pop out. It's dented forever. You have to redo it. Let's see here. There's somebody saying, heard you mention on House of the Unusual podcast about your Topstone expertise. I was on that a couple of years ago. I was on that podcast. Are they still doing that podcast? How's that going? But I remember, I was on there, I don't know, 2-3 years ago. Chet Zar, he was so good. Are you talking about horror hosts? Kathy, I have a vintage Halloween mask that is not marked, and I don't know how to find out who made it. Well, I don't know if it's possible to find out. If you go to the Basement of Horror Facebook group, and every Basement of Horror video should have a link to it in the description. And answer the security questions when you try to enter. Answer the questions, because if you don't answer, you'll be rejected. So answer the questions, and then you get in there and post a picture of the mask, and we'll see if we can do anything. Can't guarantee it, but someone might know what it is. So John says, "Where's Billy?" Billy was around. I just moved that Santa mask because he was sniffing at it. I thought he was going to claw at it or something. He was around. He's walking back and forth. Ski 2010, you have a massive collection. What's a Grail item you're still chasing? Let's see, a Grail that I'm still chasing. Probably will not get. Well, I'd like to have the Imagineering Incredible Melting Man makeup kit, but I'm not spending $2,000 or $3,000 to get them. No, sir. But that's something I like to have. It's an Imagineering piece. You know, I mean, I like Lincolns a lot, so it would be nice to have a card to rock. I know Brian got one recently. I can't imagine how in the world I would ever get one. I don't know. I guess I could accept a loose one, but even loose costs a lot of money these days for a loose Mr. Rock. And if I'm going to spend that kind of money, I'd rather spend it on a card one. So that's probably another one that I'll never get. Oh, there are some Topstone masks I still don't have. I'm going to show you something in a minute. I don't have a vintage Keith Ward Ghoul. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about in a minute. I don't have a vintage Keith Ward Topstone Ghoul. And that's probably my number one. There's Billy's sniffing at that Randatti mold. That's probably my number one Topstone want. Billy might jump up here if I get the room. Now, Billy. Billy. Come up here, Billy. He likes crinkly plastic. Come up here, Billy. Yeah, he's walking away. He likes when I crinkle plastic sometimes. Oh, well. He was there. He's what was I talking about? Oh, Holy Grails. So, yeah, I'd like to have a vintage Keith Ward Ghoul. And some other vintage Keith Ward Topstones I still don't have. I don't have a black-haired Keith Ward vintage shock monster. I've got a blue hair and a white hair. I don't have a black hair vintage Keith Ward shock monster. You know, got modern ones, but not a vintage one. So that's a one I'd like to have. Who's the Metallica guy? Kirk. What's his name? You know who I'm talking about. Big monster collector. He's got a black-haired Keith Ward shock monster. He's got the only one that I know of. But unfortunately, he had it repainted. There, Kirk Hammett, yeah. Yeah, so he's got one. And I tried the one that he has, and the guy was really snooty with me. Because at that point, he already had to deal with Kirk. He was Siller was real snooty with me about how, you know, like basically whatever I had to trade or pay my money, my toys were just not good enough. You know, he said, no, this is going in a prestigious collection, you know, not your collection, you hoodlum. This is going in a good collection. So I did not get that. Kurt got it. And then he repainted it. Why? I don't know. Anyway, so what else would I like? I mean, there's other Holy Grails. I don't really think about toy Holy Grails very much. I think about what I need for the show, like for an episode. Like I just got something a few days ago that I probably wouldn't have bought, except I need it for an episode. It was like 125, 35, 45, I don't know, little under 150. And I got it because I thought to make a more complete episode, I wanted to show that I and there's still a couple of pieces I want for that episode. So there's another thing I want that's $400 on eBay. The guy's never going to sell it for what he's asking, but I need it for an episode. So I was talking earlier about this magazine that I need for an episode. So that's kind of where I'm at now, is buying toys. What do I need for episodes? That's where my money goes. What do I need to make an episode? So I've got like, maybe there's like a half dozen things I need, and I'm missing one thing, and I need that one thing, and I can't do the episode until I get that one thing to make a more authoritative episode. Like if it's like a set of toys, like if there's 8 characters and I've got 6 of the 8 characters, I'm not going to do an episode 6 of the 8. I want all of them. So I've got to get those 2. I might spend a lot of money on those, and it might be something that I wouldn't have done if I didn't have a show. But I want to do the episode. I'm not going to do it incomplete, so I want everything. Another, there's something I have that's got a cracked part. I don't want to do the show with a cracked part. So until I get this replacement, I'm not doing the episode. And it's a multi-$100 toy. So I've been in the market for that particular toy so I can replace this part, so I can do the episode. I'm not going to do it with a cracked one. I just sent something out for restoration just last week, and that's going to be a few $100s. And I probably would have restored that anyway, but the fact that I want it for an episode gave me a little push, because that's a fairly significant toy, and it unfortunately got damaged, and I want it restored professionally. So I probably would have done that anyway, but the fact that I had an episode on it pushed me in that direction of getting it done. So that's where my money goes. It's not Grails. It's like, what do I need to do an episode? I want to do an episode on this particular thing. Oh, wait, I can't because I'm missing this piece in the set, or something's damaged. I want it fixed, or something's not right. I need to have a complete presentation. So that's where my money goes now. It's more of that than just what do I feel like collecting. It's more like production costs. What do I need to make the episode? Let's see here. But there's other Grails. I have a really extensive Ben Cooper Jiggler collection, but I don't have the sleeve stack. I think Brian's got a sleeve stack. I don't have the sleeve stack. I got just about everything else, but not that sleeve stack. So I need that. And what else do I need? For Topstone, I would like more masters. I have several, but I would like some more. I would really like the Graveyard Devil. Justin Mabry has that. I don't know if he's got the only one or if there's another one out there somewhere, but I would like that master. Justin's not going to give that up. Forget that. That's my character, the Graveyard Devil. That's also Justin's favorite Topstone character. So he's not giving that up. And I don't know if there's some of these masters, there's 2 or 3 of them out there. I don't know about that one. I'd like to have a few more significant Topstone masters of like high profile characters, not some random thing. I've got a few. I would like more of those masters. And there are some posters, movie posters I'd like. I don't know. I'm not thinking about Holy Grails these days. The Grails I want are out of my reach. They're so expensive, so rare that I'm never going to get them, so I don't worry about it. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be getting any more Grails anytime soon. Probably not. I got a Grail that was not recently. I got a keyboard called a Farfisa Synthorchestra. It's a silver synthesizer from the early 70s, and I wanted that for a long time. And they always go for a lot of money. And someone had one. It's an Italian synth, so it's got Italian power supply and Italian electrical plug. And someone in Italy that was already a pretty good price. It was multi-thousands of dollars. And I just took a chance and I made a really low ball offer. And I thought they would just tell me, like, are you kidding me? Don't ever contact me again. And instead they took it and I got it. So I immediately I sent it to a synth restoration tech who's working on it now. And hopefully I'll have that back. So that was kind of a grail, having one of those. That's a classic synth from the 70s that was used on a lot of early electronic albums. So that was cool. So whenever, I get mad when people get mad at lowball offers. You can offer me whatever you want. If I'm offering something for, I'm taking offers, which is usually not what I do. When I sell something, I usually just do it as an auction, bid whatever you bid, and the highest bidder wins. But if I were taking offers, I think it's kind of stupid and kind of rude, and I don't like it when people get mad at lowball offers. I know some of my friends are very sensitive about lowball offers. So if they're selling a mask or an action figure for $500, and if you offer them $200 or something, they'll get angry at you. I get angry at them for getting angry. I think always offer whatever you want to offer, and all they can say is no. Because too many times in my life, I've made lowball offers of 50% or less what they were asking. And they said yes. So you don't know until you try. Why not? If you cannot afford it, but you can afford 50%, 40% of what they're asking, why not give it a try? And they can say no. They don't have to get personal about it. But I understand if there's someone who's like always making lowball offers, that's all they ever do, they can get annoying. But just say no if you don't want to sell it for something. But there are some people, if they're selling something for $400 and you offer them $475, they act like you're a criminal. Offers. Well, I mean, other people, if they're selling something for $400 and you offer them $150, they'll say, okay, you don't know. Give it a try. And if they say no, that's the way I feel. So I've done that, with toys and masks and all that stuff where I've made very low offers and they say yes. And the synthesizer, I made a very low ball offer thinking that they wouldn't even consider it. And they said, okay. And I got it. I said, wouldn't have it. It was too expensive. Like I said, it's a $1,000 thing. So I would not have been able to afford that for what it normally goes for. Oh, let's see here. I wish Billy would jump up here, but he doesn't do that very often. He's an older cat now. He's 5, and not very old, but still old. He's got that age where he's not jumping very much. He jumps up on the kitchen counter and wants to drink basically out of that, literally, but I have little dishes by the sink, and I'll fill it up with water, and I'll hold it to his mouth. So he wants me to hold it there. So he jumps up on the counter and waits for me to fill it up and hold it in front of him. And then he drinks. That's the only time he really jumps up. There are shelves down here. He'll jump up on those, and he likes to go up into the windows, which are up high. They're at ground level, but it's a basement, so they're up high. So he has to jump up on some stuff to get up there. So he jumps, but he doesn't jump on this desk very much anymore. Ray, could you do a podcast on plastic stallions with Brian and Jason? Well, that's up to Brian. I mean, I can't invite myself. Brian's been on this channel, and you're talking about the Pod Stallions podcast. I listen to that. They haven't done one in a while, have they? I think they're due for one. But I think I've heard just about every episode of that. And if it was the right topic where I had something to offer. Now, it's not a podcast. I am boarding a plane in about a week and a half. And I'm going to an undisclosed destination for some super secret business, which I won't tell you what it is, but I hope they will allow me to document it so I can make an episode about it. I don't know if I'm going to be allowed to do that or not, but I'm going on a plane to someplace, and they're paying for the plane and the hotel, and it's not a convention. It's something to do with it's an entertainment, a media related thing. And when I can tell you more, I will. But I'm not going to say that. So we need maybe a little production meeting next week before I leave, just to make sure I got all my T's crossed and I's dotted. But it's exciting. I think you'll like it. At least horror fans would know what this is if I'm. But it's very exciting, and it has to do with something that I've been involved with before, and I've done episodes about it before, and we'll see how that goes. And I'll tell you more when I can. That'll be a little adventure in a couple of weeks. I hope all goes well on that trip and that little adventure. And if I can record my experience, I will. I don't know if I'm allowed to or not. But I'm being a little. Yes, that's not what I wanted to do. There we go. See, everything's reversed in this monitor. That's as much as I'll say about it. Monster Kid Corey. Hi, heyo. Hello. Hi, Ray. You should be a horror host. Aaron Brooks says I should be a horror host. Daniela said that. I don't know. Like, how would I do that? Like, what would be the format? What movies am I going to be hosting? I don't want to host, the same public domain stuff everyone else hosts. Nah, I don't know. I mean, I thought about that, but I feel like there's already plenty of good horror hosts out there, and I don't know what I have to offer as a horror host, and I don't have the studio space to make an environment to do that properly. I mean, I got this little space. This is not how I'd want to do it. And I wouldn't want to come here like this and say, hey, let's watch this movie, and then come back from the movie to me, on this little set, on this desk. That's not how I want to do it. I want a character. I don't know. I've thought about it, but also I really wouldn't want to do it like public domain movies on YouTube or whatever. If I were going to do it, I'd want to really do it. And I think the era for that is gone. If you're grandfathered in from the 80s or 90s, like Spinguli, Joe Bob, Elvira, etc., the big names, that's one thing. But if you're not kind of grandfathered in to just start doing it now, I mean, you have to just do it online for free. And there's some good ones out there. I mean, obviously Danielle's fantastic, and you've had some other people like Mike has done some horror hosting. It's not exactly his main gig, but he's good at that as well. And we have some other horror hosts that are in the audience. If I were going to do it, I'd want to do it on TV. I don't know how else to put it. I don't want to do it on TV. I don't want to do it on YouTube, because I feel like there's already plenty of great horror hosts out there, great at what they do. I have nothing more to offer. I can't bring anything more to that. And I just don't want to do the public domain stuff because everybody does that. And what I grew up with were broadcast television horror hosts. And so I think you can't get there from here. I just think that time's passed. and I don't know how it would be such a hill to climb. I'd have to have a burning passion to do that. And I don't have a burning passion to be a horror host. It would be nice, but it's not like, oh, my whole life I've dreamt of being a horror host. Some people have. People watching right now, I'm sure have. But that's not been my burning passion. So to do it to the level that I would want to do it, if I were going to do it at all, I would need that burning passion to drive me to do that. Because either I would go full tilt or not at all. That's my attitude. And I don't feel like I have the drive to go full tilt. So that's where it is with the horror host. But yes, people have told me many times I should go horror host. Okay, next topic. Oh, let's see here. Mikey, yeah, I know you love the Santa. No, I know. August aesthetic, not aesthetic, aesthetic. Here in Hawaii, the horror host was Bob Lone of Beard Weird's Movie Time. Beard Weird, not Weird Beard. Beard Weird. I had not heard of him. Pat Sparks, hope all is well, Ray. Hope your summer is going okay. Thank you. Same to you. Chet Czar, Raymond, I would love to have you on my podcast sometime for an interview. I just had Rick Baker on. It's called the Dark Art Society podcast on YouTube. Wow. Are you in the Basement of Horror group on Facebook? Because if you're not, post a link to that. I mean, if you're not, get on there. Answer the security questions. Get in that group and post a link to this Dark Art podcast so I can see what you're talking about. I was just talking to a couple of Mr. Baker's colleagues recently. But I won't say any more on that. Let's see. Mikey, I second Ray on Dark Arts Society pod. I have to listen to this, I guess. I don't know this thing. I don't know this podcast. Seems like I need to get in on this. Let's see. Yeah, cats always work on their own time. Wrinkle a bag of treats. Oh, no, he doesn't go for treats. Okay, now people are saying Kirk Hammett, like I was talking about him a long time ago. So maybe there's a glitch there, because that was like, 20 minutes ago. Mikey is saying fool. John, doesn't he own a bunch of original Frazzettas? You're talking about Kirk. Yeah, Kirk owns everything. He's got everything. Joseph Green, Tor Johnson autograph is my Grail. Wow. Collecting all the Ed Wood ghouls. You mean like autographs from them? I've got a really beautiful Bride of the Monster one sheet. That's really nice. I need to get that lit back. I don't have Plan 9 because that's a little too expensive. I can't afford that. Yosemite Sam, spend on what you love and the bills. That's the thing, is after the bills, there's not much left. Monster Kid Corey, my Grails are just some dumb King Kong things. Yosemite Sam, Brian has a real sleeve stack. So what do you mean by that? Like captured in a cage or something, or because he has the jiggler for sure. Grumpy Gregory, do you still have your John Ken Vampire Witches? Do you still have your John? Oh, I think you're saying his name wrong. Do you mean those vinyls? John Ken Mortensen or something like that? Yeah, I still have those. I still have all those vinyls. Gary Carpenter. Hi there, everyone. Hello. Chet Czar. That's a major synth score. Oh, thank you. I think so. I was excited. Ski 2010. Great channel for historic context of horror films. Love the great work on Coffin Joe. Well, I'm glad you like Coffin Joe, because you're going to love some things in the future. You know, somebody Sam, put some catnip on your posters next year. What? No. He'll make mincemeat of them. Hayes Anderson. Hello, Basement of Horror lovers. Hello, Hayes. Mike, he have downstairs in his basement? So do you mean do I have like a downstairs in my downstairs, or if you're talking about like him climbing, there's shelves that Billy can climb on down here. The dungeon Sasquatch search. No, I was talking about going on a Momo search when Danielle's mentioned that. Danielle came down here. We'd both go on a Momo search. And it'd be like the Blair Witch Project. We'd never be heard from again. Let's see. Hayes. Hint, hint. Hodag. So we say, no, I'm not going on a Hodag search. If you're coming to the West Coast, the weather is finally starting to feel like summer. Ah. A lot of commotion on the West Coast right now. Gary, Sam, I know a guy that searches for Bigfoot. His name is Danny Stetton from South Carolina. Monster Kid Corey, you are a character. So you're saying like I don't need to make up a character for a horror host. I'm already there. Ray, I would watch your movie reviews of some classics, aka Frankenstein. There are already so many people doing that. You know, I mean, what do I have to offer to that? Monster Kid Corey, your whole jam is being a totally chill guy sitting in your 70s basement talking about toys for an hour. That could work for movies, but not as a wacky horror host. Yeah, I don't. Right. You know, I don't think this. You say it could work for movies. I don't really know that it would, but definitely, if I try to play up some kind of a character, I just don't know. It would have to be just right, and I don't want to. I copy some other character. If I'm going to be a horror host, I want my own character. And I don't feel like I have anything dynamic to offer that genre. Have I thought of something? I don't know. I just feel like there's so many people doing it better than I could do. And some of them aren't doing it anymore. But we have their old shows to look at. I just like, why do we need me doing it? And I wouldn't have access to the movies I'd want to show. And I don't want to show movies. I know on YouTube you can get away with who cares about rights, not rights, whatever. People show whatever on YouTube. They upload whatever. I mean, I uploaded a Bigfoot movie a couple years ago because it was not available in a watchable form. So over a Christmas break, I worked on it and I synced the audio, which you couldn't get that version of the film with synced audio. And I posted it. That was because you couldn't find a watchable version of it anywhere. So, but that's an example of a movie I posted. I don't have the rights to that. I don't think anyone else does either. I think it's pretty much an orphaned film, more or less, public domain. No, I don't know. Who knows? I might get to the point where I don't want to talk about toys anymore. And I might say, well, let's talk about movies. I don't know. We'll see. I would watch your movie reviews of class. Okay, your whole jam. Yes. Okay, I will. I don't think I'm on there. Well, you would know if you were on there. So look in one of my videos, the description, look at the end of the description, and you'll see a link to go to that Facebook page. Just answer the security questions, or else you will not be let in. Daninsky with exclamation points. Just wanted to stop by and thank you for all of your great work throughout the years. Amy Castillo, you legend. Oh, thank you very much. I like your name. See, that would be the kind of movies I'd want to show, would be, among others, Waldemar Daninsky movies, for sure. I remember his black light same poster. Oh, Mike Garza, you had this poster. This is a vintage one too. This is an original. I know they sell reproduction. That's not what this is. This is real. Dr. Dre Sanctum, Coffin Joe, yay. Bud Malone. Brian has Jason dressed up like a sea stack in his basement. Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know about that. Oh, here we go with the slideshows. Yeah, we talked about that already. The slideshow stuff. We went, watch the replay. We went all into that. Let's see what else we got here. Okay, so little lull. Let me show one more thing, and then I think we'll be signing out. So, hang on here. Need to look at something. Or actually, let me see here. Let me see. Ta-da. Hang with me. I'm looking up something. This is exciting while I look at something here. No. Hold on. Please stand by. Oh, come on. Okay, I can't find what I'm trying to find. So let me just show you something. Okay, so we're talking about I was saying I wanted a Keith Ward Ghoul. Okay, so this is the mask I'm talking about. So that is a Keith Ward Ghoul. That's not a vintage one though. That is a modern one. So that's made from a vintage master, you know, an original Topstone master. Then a new mold was made from that, and then this was made from that mold. So this is I don't have the vintage Keith Ward Ghoul. I have the 1980s resculpt. They resculpted this in the 1980s. I don't have the original, this is the original Keith Ward version of this character. So this is something I acquired recently. And I don't know anyone who has an intact vintage Ghoul. I would like to have one. I've never even seen one for sale. The 80s one, yeah, you can get the 80s one, the 1980s resculpt, but not this. Not the original. Let's see here. Now let's put this down. Where should I put this? Let's see here. Now this is an example of this is made from the same mold. So this was an attempt to make a vintage style copy. All right, so this was very thin and painted very hastily to resemble what the original would look like. So if you find an original, it's going to look kind of like that. But you can see even doing it very thin and painting it very, very quickly, it's still, you can tell it's still a modern mask. It still doesn't look like a vintage. I don't know how you would get it to look like an authentic vintage mask. First of all, you have to cast it in white latex. That's one thing. Cast away. And it would have to be, this is a thin pull, but it would have to be even thinner. I mean, you just like pour it in, pour it out. Really, really thin. And I think there's something about the paint they use these days that it just doesn't look like the vintage paint. I don't know what the formulation was back in the day with the paints they used. Like you saw that Santa and the way that paint looks. Obviously, this paint doesn't look the same. So you just can't duplicate that vintage look. The rubber's not the same. The paint's not the same. The method to make, even when a talented person tries to recreate it, you can still tell it's just not, you can tell this is made in the modern day. But if you ever see something out there that looks like that, let me know. And it's got to say, where is it? It's got to say Keith Ward on it. I don't think you can see it very well, but this up there, it says a Keith Ward creation in a little circular, there it is, circular logo. Keith Ward sculpted this. And this is the difference between a thicker, more carefully painted mask. Cannot see what I'm doing. And painted thick sculpt, hastily painted deliberately, thin casting. This is a thick casting, thin casting, trying to make it look like a vintage one. So that's, Holy Grail would be finding an authentic vintage one of these. We don't have that. I don't know anybody who has that intact. I know someone who has a damaged one, but not a real one. Not an intact one. Okay, where are we at here? Let's see. I'm missing a lot here. So Lou, around Halloween, thank you. And we'll have more Halloween this October. Monster Kid, how's that thing not in a Safeway bag? Gorgeous mask, though. It is. So a lot of people like this. Yeah, this poster is called A Nightmare. That's the name of this blacklight poster. Chet, it looks better than the original. I mean, the ghoul. Well, yeah, but I want the original. I want the vintage original. I mean, it's nice to have the modern ones too, but I want a vintage one. Yeah, the old one will have the Keith Ward circular stamp, and this should. Yeah, but you can barely. It's there, but you can barely see it. It is there. It's there. There it is. I think you can make it out. There it is. It is there. Right. So, and the remake, the resculpt from the 80s looks very close if you're not, a Topstone aficionado. But the original one will have that Keith Ward circular logo on the back of the head. No, Bill did not tolerate wearing a mask. New England Hunter. Good evening. Hello. Thank you. Thank you. More about the Dark Art Society. I guess I have to catch up with this podcast. Let's see here. The Phantom Creeps robot mask. I've definitely seen Phantom Creeps robot masks over the years. I don't Topstone didn't make one, but I know independent mask artists have made them. Yeah, Chet's talking about the paint. I think you're right about the rubber cement. Though I hear people talk about being disappointed trying to use rubber cement, that doesn't come out the way they want, or it's sticky, or something's not right. So I don't know. I think they had, I don't know. I think I had a different way of doing things back then. I don't know if that was as simple as just always rubber cement. And I don't know if rubber cement is what it used to be. You know, if you buy rubber cement now, I don't know if that's what it used to be. Rubber cement is always kind of tacky. So how do they address that? Pat Sparks. Thanks for dropping in, Pat. Sam, no, we did not discuss NECA howling. I don't have that, so I don't have anything to say about the NECA howling. I mean, I don't have any of the NECA howling toys. They're nice. How many different bags does this thing have? I like the NECA howling, but you know, I'm not a howling. I used to have the trio of Don Post masks. I guess they're the Nightmare Trio, the ones that, you know, come in that dream. Don Post made the 3 masks from that scene, and they were nice, tagged, original newspaper inside of them. I sold those to Rudy, and I think he sold them at some point. But I'm just not that into American Werewolf in London. I mean, I like the movie. I'll watch it every now and then. I think it's, you know, I like it. I don't dislike it, but it's not near and dear to my heart. But you're talking about the howling. Is that what you said, the howling? Because I know NECA made American Werewolf. Did they make a howling? Now I've lost the comment. Oh, did we discuss the NECA howling? I like the howling. And I watched it not that long ago, the movie. And I mean, I like it, but it's not my favorite thing. My favorite werewolf movie is Curse of the Werewolf, the Hammer Curse of the Werewolf. I really, really like Hammer's Curse of the Werewolf. And I like Valdemar Daniski, you know, Paul Naschy werewolf movies. And of course, I like The Wolfman, Lon Chaney, especially the first movie. And I like Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman as a Wolfman movie. Not so much as a Frankenstein movie, but as a Wolfman movie. So those are the werewolf things I like. Talking about this wood paneling. Yeah, this is a original 70s wood paneling. We used to use rubber cement paint, makeup effects. Have you ever created a mask or other art item? Have I created a mask? No. Or other art item? Like a sculpture? No. When I was a kid, I was trying to make stop motion models. I didn't get very far. I couldn't make the molds. That was the stumbling block. I did make armatures, weirdly enough, with, like, you know, mechanical stuff like that. I made some of that, and I tried to sculpt some creatures, but the mold part is what killed me. I couldn't get the mold. I couldn't make the mold. That was when I was still a kid or young, adolescent, like 11, 12, 13, 14, and in that transition from childhood to adolescence. That's when I was dabbling in that. Oh, my lips are dry. Yeah, NECA Universal Monsters are beautiful, but you have so much already that would be redundant. Mikey, I've heard tell of old mass companies using weird toxic automotive paints, the kind of stuff Ford Motor used to dump in the poor part of my hometown. I bet that's what they used. They would have used industrial stuff. They would not use like what some independent mask maker working out of his house, they wouldn't use that. They would use industrial stuff. So that, I believe that's the kind of thing they might have used, something very industrial. Dr. Durant, oh, beautiful ghoul, what a gorgeous creature, beautiful ghoul. Let me call the preacher. What can I do but give my heart to you, beautiful ghoul? The Undead of Night. Hi, Raymond. Have you seen the movie Oddity? No, heard of it. Haven't seen it. Great 70s Hammer horror feel. A couple of good scares. Yeah, I've heard some good things about it. Isn't there like a dummy or a mannequin or something in that movie? Yeah, I've heard some people say good things about that movie. It's on Shudder. I noticed that. So Dr. Durant just received a beautiful mask from Mikey. He says it's stunning. Well, I'd like to see what it is. I know Mikey just was showing off a werewolf mask that he made recently. Sean says, cheers. Hello. Yosemite Sam says, NECA has a house out 9 inches. But it's like for their ultimate line, right? It's all plastic, I assume. Because I know NECA's done a lot of American Werewolf stuff as well. Let's see. Mikey's a superstar. Yes, he is. People talking about the ghoul mask. Oh, so Chet's saying I should find out about the paint. I know more about the rubber. They used a compound back in the 50s and I guess into the 60s, a specially formulated compound for the rubber. So it wasn't normal rubber. And this compound, they bought this compound from a local company that was a big industrial kind of company. And a representative of this company would come every week to test the rubber at Topstone and make sure it was the way it was supposed to be. And we take samples of it and do like chemical tests there in the factory and make sure that it was up to par, because this was their product that this company sold, rubber. They advertised this rubber compound. And I don't know what was in it, but it wasn't just latex. It was more complicated than that. And I know that the paint had very strong fumes, very toxic fumes, because people who were in the paint department have told me there were fumes. So it wasn't acrylic paint, something more toxic than that. Oh, so Mike is saying it's a Frankenstein that Dr. Durant has. Aha. Oh, Keeper of the Goats. Says Chet Zar is an amazing Hollywood special effects artist. He is also an accomplished painter. Wow. So Chet Zar would probably know better what paint they used. What did Topstone use? Because trying to find out what Topstone used, that's difficult because there's a different culture around the Topstone company and the surviving people from that company. It's much more collector friendly to talk to like Ed Edmonds or Don Post Jr. They'll actually talk to you. They're alive. And so there's a better chance of finding out something from them, because they ought to know back in the day, what did companies use? Not just them. They would know what their competitors used. They obviously would know what they used, but they would also know what their competitors, I would think, what their competitors used back in the 60s and 70s and 80s. Let's see. So Undead of Night is saying he'd love to see a big Basement of Horror episode on horror artists. Give me an interview with someone like Graham Humphreys. Would I be interested in doing that? Yeah, I don't know, because I don't know if I had the expertise to talk about that. And I certainly don't have a collection of horror art, so if I did, it'd be like my poster collection. How do I show that on my format? I don't have like a night gallery I can walk through and show you these posters. It'd be the same way with the art. So how would I'd have to cut to like JPEGs instead of having the art right there. But whereas my show is very tactile, like here's this thing, like it just showed you that mask. So I don't know about having painters. There are certain painters where I might be interested. Like I mentioned Ed Ripka a little while ago. It'd be interesting to have him on the show. Some people, particularly people who have done work in the toy industry, since this is a toy-centric show. Yeah, the old masks were meant to last one night. Exactly. And these toys we collect were meant to last for a few days until the kid broke them into pieces. That's why they're so cool to have stuff like that. I mean, like model kits. This is a 1972 model kit. Now, I painted it, but it is a 1972 Aurora glow-in-the-dark model kit with, original glow parts. This was not meant to still be here. That should not exist. There's another Aurora. This is another, the base is kind of loose. Another Aurora 72 glow kit that I painted. There we go. The artwork, doesn't it? So that was not supposed to be here. I think the bases are going to fall off of that one. And here's my good buddy. I always show my buddy my Ezra creature. That's from my childhood. Look at that. That's still, he's lost his paint, but I put him through the ringer. He's survived everything. Can you imagine NECA, Super 7, Mego, whoever, if Caustic Plastic ever makes a creature, whatever, what's that, Mondo, they're making a new creature. They made one, they're making another one. Can you imagine any of that standing up to any kind of use and still being around 50 years later? 50 plus years. None of that. None of this stuff should be here. This is my childhood bionic Bigfoot. Still works. That's his original plate, original sticker in there. This is not a replacement. That's his original. Still here. My original Kenner alien from my childhood. It's my childhood alien. Still works. All the stuff still here. This is very fragile. That's a souvenir item. Yeah. That shouldn't exist. It's very fragile. What else have we got here? This is my childhood King Kong bank. It's got my name on it, Raymond. Make sure no one else takes it. Still here. So I don't know if any of this new stuff is going to be here that long. I doubt it. But that's the cool thing about all this old stuff. It's still here. Why? They made things for kids. They made things for kids. Yes, on one hand, they were meant to, like a mask was meant to be worn one night, okay, or a costume, whatever. And a toy was meant to be played with for a few days. Then, of course, it would just turn to dust. On the other hand, they were meant to be used. They were meant to be played with. They were meant to be worn. They were meant to, a bank's meant to have a bunch of coins in it. I mean, all this stuff was meant to be played with, meant to be used. I want to, is this Dracula a bank or is it just a statue? What's a bank? It's that coins it. That's a bank. I didn't even realize that. I mean, I'm sure I knew at one point, I just forgot. But so this stuff was meant to be used, and yet here it is, and it was used. Everything you see was used, and yet here it is. So things were just different. Things were different. Something like this. Incense in it. Everything was legit. Everything had integrity and legitimacy and authenticity. And oh, come on. Oh, I thought I was going to grab Billy and then drag him up here, but no, he got away. Almost had him. Stuff today. I think when you make something for kids, all the planning from design, construction, manufacturing, color, packaging, artwork, everything, character choice, everything has a different mindset when you're making it for a child versus an adult. And I think you end up with a superior product ultimately. You know, though to a collector's mind, maybe it doesn't seem like that at first. But I think ultimately, I think someday people might value that more than a NECA Bela Lugosi toy, because I think that is made for kids. I mean, it's structured like a NECA toy, but this is in the gift shop. Kids are going to go through this. Are they thinking, I mean, like, I'm an adult, I have it, but I think they intend for kids to buy this. I think that, does it have an age on it? I don't know. Well, it says not for children under 3 years. Then it does have a 14 plus on it. So maybe it's not for kids. But just from the way they're selling it, this doesn't seem like a grown-up collector kind of thing. It seems like they're thinking a kid going through this ride would come out the other side into the gift shop and see this and want it. So I think stuff that's made for kids is going to have more of a pull in the future than stuff made for adults. And so some of the stuff that we turn our nose up, it's like, it's silly. That's goofy. If it's made for kids, you want to know what someone said earlier, what's going to be worth something in 20 years? Probably nothing. Are we even going to be here in 20, let alone 20 years? I don't know. But I think it's more likely something made for kids, marketed to kids, is going to be relevant 20, 30 years from now compared to something that was made for adults. But I do think there's a difference in the way things are constructed, the materials used, character selection. You know, like people saying, NECA, why don't you make, I don't know, Edward Van Sant or something, and they might do him, but I mean, or some side character or whatever, O'Connor or something, you know, for NECA. I think the fact in the old days they didn't make those characters is part of the personality of those vintage toys. That part of the fact they were made for kids, you didn't have that obscure adult sensibility. And if they did throw in like a Phantom or a Hunchback or the Fly or something a little more unusual, or the Bride later on or something like that, that was like an extra special little spice on the top. And kids got excited because they didn't have that character. in other toy sets. Well, it's 3.5 hours. I think it's time to wrap it up. Let me go through the questions one more time here. Let's see here. Fun stories about working retail. No, not really. I mean, none come to mind. Ghost Factory. Don Post used automotive paints in the 70s. Yeah, I believe it. Oh, Chet saying, I started a mask company in the early 90s called the Ghost Factory, and we used custom mixed latex paint because of the toxicity. Which I think is, today most people use like acrylic mixed with latex or something like that. And you can tell because masks today look different than they did back in the day. Food coloring and DDT. Yes. Sean, what is my favorite mask that I have? Oh, wow. Well, I don't know. Gosh, I mean, I certainly like my blue-haired shock monster. I love the Graveyard Devil character in Topstone. I've got some nice 80s versions. I do have the earlier Keith Ward era Graveyard Devil, but it's a late example. You can tell the mold's worn out, the mold had cracks in it. I have a nicer vintage Keith Ward era Graveyard Devil. And then see what I think of that as far as if I had a really nice vintage example of that, the earlier one, would that be one of my favorite masks? Maybe. I really like a lot of my Topstones. I like my Cyclops, and Gorilla, and Caveman. The really classic, iconic ones. I love the Melting Man, the Teenage Werewolf, the really recognizable, iconic Keith Ward characters. So I guess if I had to single out one, I guess it's the blue-haired shock monster. But my favorite character is the Graveyard Devil. But my favorite actual physical mask is probably that blue-haired shock monster. I like my Cyclops quite a bit too. He's really neat. Let me see. Yeah, talking about the paints. Oh, yeah, the AHI Kong stuff. They seem chemically unstable. A lot of jigglers are. And they get sticky over time or they get dried out. Yeah, I like the Azrak Hamway Kong stuff too because you can actually collect it, because you can actually get it. So I've got the jiggler on a card, the Kong, and with the tag. So the carded one, none of the ones I've seen have tags. So I think they're different. The tagged one, I don't know how many tag Kong jigglers I can besides the one I own. I've got the carded one, I got the tagged one. I've got the walking sparker or sparking walker on a card. I've got the squirt gun water pistol on a card. I've got the Bendham's Kong on a card. What else? What am I forgetting as far as Azrak Hamway Kong? King Kong. I think I'm forgetting something, but so that's good. You can't get a carded Bendham's creature, forget it. You can't get the Sparking Walker creature on a card, or even loose is hard with for Azrak Hamway version of that creature. You can't get the creature water pistol. You can't get all this other stuff. Even the jigglers, for sure, carded Frankenstein, Wolfman, creature, mummy on cards are authentic cards. very difficult. You can't get it, but you can get the Kong stuff. You can have them on cards. It's not easy or cheap, but you can do it. It's doable. So I like that I have all those. I love King Kong. It's my favorite movie, tied with the 68 Night of the Living Dead. So the 33 King Kong, 68 Night of the Living Dead, tied for my favorite movie. Metropolis is probably second, and then Jaws after that. So, but I love AI Kong, and I like that you can actually put together a collection of it, whereas some of the other characters you just can't do it. They're too expensive. You know, you can't get all the creature. You can't get the card Bendham's creature and a carded water pistol creature, or a loose water pistol creature, or the Sparking Walker creature, or a carded Jiggler creature, and a tagged Jiggler creature. You can sort of get that, but and a carded, creature figure, and so on and so on. You just can't do it, but you can do it with the Kong. You can actually collect it. So if you're evaluating a collectible, what's good or bad, it kind of helps if you can actually collect it instead of you can't collect. Okay, Mikey's talking about a sculpted hair black cat. What's that about? I must have missed something. Chet says, wow, that Bigfoot. Mikey Severe's spook show. Haha, yes, we did have a black cat. Are you talking about a mask? Okay. With sculpted hair. So yeah, Mikey, didn't he do like a Halloween, vintage Halloween style black cat or something like that? Am I misremembering that? Nice patina on the alien. You mean dust or? I mean, it's very played with. Put it that way. He's very, very played with. Lots of adventures with that alien. Oh, Chet's talking about stuff his parents threw out. Well, yeah, I've lost a lot of my stuff too. I'm glad I still have several things. But yeah, I mean, my parents threw stuff away too. Let me see here. Could you make a new video of you jamming at the piano? Yeah, or synthesizers. Yeah, that's a whole other discussion. I felt like with the channel, I had to go in one direction or another. And I thought, trying to swing between toys, masks, and then music videos or whatever else. I felt like I had to establish an identity for the channel. And I noticed that my music videos, they were doing okay for a while. And then they just, as far as viewers, I would post, whereas before I would post something and maybe we would get several hundred views. This is back, in the earlier days of the channel. Maybe we'd get 1,000 views, maybe we'd get 1,000 views. And I said, okay, for a music video, it's not bad, given how small my channel was. This is back when I had like fewer than 1,000 subscribers. And then they would start getting like 20 views. And then it would be take forever and ever to get 100 or 200 or 300. It would just take forever. I'm just I think my audience is dried up for this. And for music, really, you want an audience. If you're going to perform, you want someone out there, you want to perform for an audience. And I didn't think it would be good for my channel, since a lot of my toy videos now are getting like 2,000 or 3,000 views. So it's doing pretty good. And they don't all get that, but a lot of them do. So it's not good for the channel to then throw in a video that gets 200 views. So I had to make a decision about the direction of the channel and the identity of the channel. So I moved away from the music video stuff. Maybe I could make another channel, but I always in general, the YouTube music sphere, I've noticed has been, just culturally, people aren't watching that stuff. They don't want to watch music videos. They don't want to hear music. They want to see gear porn. Basically, they want to see the gear. They don't really care about what music you're playing. Just that's a whole other discussion. So I don't know. I might do some music videos, but that might be a future thing if I shift again out of toy-oriented stuff or monster stuff, and if I shift back into music stuff. I don't know. That I think it is kind of like whiplash to have a toy video, music video, something else, huh? What's going on with this channel? Let's see. Trying to, where am I at? These. Billy Blastoff. I remember that name, but I can't picture the character. I think it's Godzilla and Kong Toys. Fun because it's for kids. Playmates? Playmates? That's like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Is that what you're thinking? The right company? Or like, are you thinking Imperial Godzilla and King Kong? I mean, Trendmasters had Godzilla, but they didn't have King Kong. Not really. And now I don't know who does the legendary stuff. Is that Playmates? See, I haven't kept up with like the legendary, the studio called Legendary that makes the Godzilla movies now. I haven't kept up with those toys. Is that Playmates? I don't know who makes them. I didn't even know Playmates was still around. I don't know. But yeah, the Godzilla and Kong toys for the new movies, the American movies, those are made for kids. Yes, I would say so. Those are kid oriented. Let's see. Final Faction at Dollar Tree. Yeah, I looked at those. The Final Faction, I remember looking at those, and that just wasn't for me, but I remember being intrigued by those because there were some YouTubers talking about them, so I checked them out. Collinson Twins, what's that about? Collinson Twins. You take me back to the best days of my childhood. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. You saw the man at the drive-in. And I think I mentioned that was like a holy grail. The Imagineering Melting Man makeup kit was a holy grail never get because it's just too expensive. But I like the idea of that movie more than the actual movie. I do. I saw it when I was a kid, not at the theater. I saw it when to syndicated TV, but they didn't cut much. So I did see it as a kid, and I've got it on Blu-ray now. I like it, but I like the idea of the character, and I like the merchandising and promotion of the movie more than the actual movie itself. And I like Rick Baker's design a lot more. It was utilized in the movie. Oh, there's Penny again. Toy Island Universal Monsters from the 2000s, while not my favorites, were a line made for kids, weren't they? Or would you say they were more for collectors? I think they had one foot in both worlds, but I think they were more kid-oriented than even the Sideshow, let's say, which came earlier. And the fact that they had the build-a-figure element, that it was collector-oriented to collect them all to build this figure, but then you had to open them to do that. So I did an episode on those where it looked like every character in that line looks like it was modeled off of some guy who worked in the company. It's got this weird face. They all have the same face. It's like the same guy. It's like George from The Office, who worked for Toy Island. They say, how do we don't have any actor likenesses. What do we do? Well, there's George in the cubicle over there. Come here, George. and they just, as if they imagined him made up as all these monsters, because every one of those figures just looks like it's the same guy made up to look like each monster. I don't know if that's what they did. I'm just imagining that. But I mean, that's what it looks like. It looks like it's all based on the same generic looking fellow made up to look like these monsters. Mikey's saying we're not worthy to Penny. No, we're not. We're really not. Oh, so Playmates and Godzilla and Kong. I didn't know that. I did not know who made those. I hadn't paid attention to those. I mean, I love like Godzilla -1 and Shin Godzilla, you know, the Japanese Godzilla movies. The American ones, yeah, I've seen them all. Yeah, I've seen every one they've made. Yeah. I'm glad they're making Godzilla and King Kong movies, and the kids are seeing them, and kids are excited about Godzilla and King Kong. That's great. That's great. I think the first Godzilla and the first Kong Skull Island, I think those two are the best of the series, and then I think it started getting a little too ridiculous too fast, and now they're so they're not grounded in any way. So it's kind of like Marvel movies or something, where the world they inhabit is so out there, it's not ours anymore, so you can't really relate to it. I can relate to like Godzilla -1, Godzilla in our world, in the real world, with real people and real consequences, and it's frightening. Or Shin Godzilla, same thing. But when the whole world becomes this kind of fantasy thing, where there's this super high-tech, you know, this technology that doesn't exist and will not exist in our lifetime, it's almost like they're in a Star Wars kind of universe. And all these giant monsters suddenly appearing all over the world. It's one thing when Toho does it, when a modern series does it, it's hard to care about it. And I like the first Godzilla and the first Kong were more grounded, and you could care about what was happening there. It felt like those were happening in the real world. And then I think they went too fast too soon, kind of like Warner Brothers did with the Snyderverse DC. They went, and now maybe they're doing it again with this new James Gunn movie. I hope not, but I feel like if you throw too many fantasy characters at a franchise too fast, it detaches from the real world, and then it's hard to care about it. So I can care about one Godzilla, and then maybe somehow there's a couple of monsters connected to him that surface at the same time, and there's one Kong, and there's some monsters on his island. Okay, that's about as far as you can stretch it. And then when you start having all these monsters, and then there's giant monsters are just kind of float. They don't have any, or, you know, you can't believe they're really there because of CGI. It's hard to just care. And then the people are all sci-fi characters, and they're flying around spaceships or something, and there's all this technology that doesn't exist. Well, what world is this? This isn't our world. So it's hard to care about it. It's like seeing giant monsters in a Star Wars story. Well, that's nice, but it's not a monster movie anymore. Now it's a fantasy movie, of adventure, sci-fi fantasy, which is fine. But I like it a little more grounded, so I can care about it. I can believe in it. And I have the same problem with Marvel today. I can believe in a world where there's a Hulk, an Iron Man, a Spider-Man, Captain America. Now you're starting to stretch it. Thor, okay. And then Doctor Strange, and oh dear. And then before you know it, once you got to the third phase of MCU, and I like the first three phases, but I think that went about as far as it could go. Now you've got this world where there's a superhero on every street corner. There's hundreds of superheroes now. It's not our world anymore. Then who cares? Who cares? If it's like in Star Wars, you don't care if someone can fly. You don't care if there's a character that can lift a car in Star Wars. Because it's Star Wars. It's not, it's a complete fantasy world or the Lord of the Rings. I don't care if there's a wizard in the Lord of the Rings. Well, of course, it's the Lord of the Rings. It's Middle Earth. Of course, it's a wizard. It doesn't mean anything. If there's a giant monster or some strong creature, yeah, it's Middle Earth. Who cares? It's when it's our world, then it's exciting. Like, oh my gosh, in our world, there's a guy who can fly. In our world, there's a guy who turns into a monster. In our world, there's a guy who can climb up the wall. That's amazing. But when there's 10,000 superheroes, then it's not our world anymore. And it just doesn't matter. And then nothing matters. And it's just, what is this world? I don't recognize this world anymore. A world where any of those have happened, like in the MCU, like in the later phases, wouldn't the world economy would collapse. The belief systems all over the world would collapse. Life as we know it would collapse. It would be a completely different society. The world we know, we wouldn't be going to work every day. We wouldn't be doing this live stream. Nothing would be happening the way it's happening now. And it's the same thing if there was all of these giant monsters and all this, chaos everywhere. Life wouldn't go on as usual. It would be a completely different world. So it might as well be Star Wars or Middle Earth or some other universe. And so when it's no longer grounded, it doesn't matter. So I respect, like Kenneth Johnson in the original Incredible Hulk TV show. I do wish he had allowed a couple of, super powered characters in there now and then, but I respect his decision to hold the line on that and say, okay, no, only the Hulk is supernatural and there no other supernatural stuff happens. Loosened up a little here and there. There's like a psychic and this, a little that. There's another Hulk and a couple of things, but for the most part, he was really strict. Like, no, there can't be anything else supernatural. The Hulk is the only supernatural thing. I think ultimately that's probably, as much as I wish there had been some other super characters in that show, ultimately I think he made the right choice. And if he had loosened up a little bit, the gates would have opened, and before you know it, it just would have dissolved into something silly. So that's my philosophy about it. I was talking Legendary Godzilla. That's why I'm not that excited about those movies, because I really prefer something like Godzilla -1, where you believe in the world. It's our world, and oh my gosh, there's a giant monster in our world. That's exciting. Oh my gosh, there's a vampire in our world. There's a werewolf in our world. Oh my goodness, there's a monster in our world. Or there's a superhero flying around in our world. That's exciting. When there's 1,000 superheroes or 1,000 monsters, then it's not our world, and who cares? It doesn't matter. Oh, I gotta wrap this up. Over here. Playmates made the most amazingly terrible Shin Godzilla figure. I haven't seen it. 28 days later, I saw the original. I haven't seen the latest one. I've heard a lot of mixed reviews about this latest one. Mike, I love his piano. Please try again. Knew his video 2025 again. He act like family opera. Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of myself as a bit phantasmic on the keyboards. Metallic Frankenstein. No, I had not seen a Metallic Frankenstein figure. Shin Godzilla and Godzilla -1 are real movies. Yes. I enjoyed Godzilla vs. Kong as just this big, dumb, modern version of one of the 70s Godzilla movies. Yeah, and that's kind of how I try to take it too. But, the dumb Toho movies, the later ones when they were just for kids, those have a humility to them. They're humble films. They're guys in rubber suits on obviously miniature sets. That changes the way you take them. They're obviously kiddie movies, but also they're not high tech. And there's a humanity to the sort of puppetry of the physical suits and the miniatures and the little explosions going off in slow motion that you lose when it's just this CGI fest and everything is digital. It loses the humility, and it just seems kind of crass. Just being a normal person in the Marvel Cinematic Universe would be a nightmare. Yeah, all hell would be breaking loose every day. How would you be able to function? Even in our world, it's bad enough lately, everything breaking loose. But imagine adding superheroes and supervillains and aliens and all that. It's the 50th anniversary. Oh, Jaws. Do I own any vintage Jaws? Yes. I have a couple of videos about Jaws. Look, I have 2 videos about Jaws. So look at my, just look at my channel for Jaws. I think you can do a search, right? There's a search function. And there's 2 Jaws videos. One where I look at general collection, Jaws collection, and then another that some of those. And then I focus on a Lincoln Shark Hunter boat. So one is a big long video with all kinds of Jaws stuff, and then the other is focused on this Lincoln Jaws Shark Hunter boat, but it also revisits some of the pieces from the previous video. Am I looking forward to the Guillermo del Toro Frankenstein movie? Yeah, I wish it were theatrical. I guess those on Netflix. But yeah, I am looking forward to that. I like Guillermo del Toro a lot. You know, he doesn't always hit a home run, but when he does, it's really good. I like The Shape of Water a lot. I saw that at the theater, and I really liked that. And of course, I like like Pan's Labyrinth and his best known stuff. And I liked his Hellboy movies. I didn't like Crimson Peak. I did see that, and I don't know. I wasn't as crazy about that. I didn't see, what was it called, Nightmare Alley, the remake of the film noir. I didn't see that. Why is he doing a remake? I mean, Del Toro shouldn't be doing remakes. What's this about? Yeah, so I love hearing Del Toro talk about movies and talk about culture, talk about all the things we love. He's a very, almost like a father figure. There's something about him kind of paternal. I want to call him like Papa Del Toro. He's just, he has this sort of dignity and authority, even though he's kind of foul, at least, from his stuff he does in the media. He has a sort of dignity, authority to him. So I will listen to him any chance I get talk about horror or movies or monsters or any of the things we love. As a director, he's made some masterpieces, and he's made some things where I thought, well, yeah, I don't know. I see where he's going, but so I'm optimistic about this Frankenstein. I know that's been a passion project of his for a long time, so I am definitely interested in this. I'm optimistic that sometimes passion projects don't turn out well, and like Peter Jackson's King Kong. I did not like that. And you might even say Tim Burton's Dark Shadows might have been considered a passion project, and that didn't turn out well. So sometimes people are too close to something. If it's a movie they've been dreaming of making forever and ever, and they finally get the chance, sometimes they're too close to it, and that it doesn't turn out well. So I hope that's not what happens here. So I hope it is a good movie, and I am looking forward to it. Let's see here. So you're recommending I give Nightmare Alley a try? So Chet What is your favorite Del Toro movie? I guess I'd have to say Pan's Labyrinth, but that's kind of a cliched answer. You know, maybe Shape of Water. I do like Shape of Water quite a bit. I didn't like the big robot one. What's that one called? Pacific Rim. Yeah, I didn't like that one. I saw that at the theater, and you know, I can hear some good things about it, but yeah. I thought that was a swing and a miss. Really, his best directed film. All right, well, all the monsters versus the fascists. Is that Pan's Labyrinth? I mean, a few of his films could match that description because he's very. That's a recurring theme. But I think you mean Pan's Labyrinth, but the monsters weren't fighting the fascists. Monster Kid Corey. Well, good night. And I need to be going too. It's we're going on 4 hours. We still got 40 people in here. But I think we're winding down. So if anyone's got some last words, now's the time. Anyone with anything, any final thoughts? Chet, if you talk to Del Toro sometime, I'm curious to know if he knows what Topstone is and if he has any thoughts on Topstone. Is he familiar with it? Is that something that's even on his radar? I'm just kind of curious to know that. Yeah, so next time, oh, he does. So has he actually mentioned assuming that, or has he mentioned that? I mean, you would think he would know, obviously. Because what doesn't he know? He knows everything, but he's a walking encyclopedia of horror and popular culture. Yeah, I'd be curious to know. All right, so Daninsky. Well, thank you for being here, Daninsky. I agree. He's definitely one of us, and I'm very happy that for all of his success. And I would say he is my favorite filmmaker. Del Toro is my favorite contemporary director, but he doesn't always make my favorite films, if that makes any sense. Good night, Gamera. Oh, Penny's still here. Good night, Danielle. Sweet dreams or sweet nightmares. Okay, sign off soon. I'm going to end the stream. Good night, everybody. Thanks for coming. Good live stream. I hope this archives to the channel without any problems. If not, then we had a good time tonight, didn't we? Thank you very much. And here we go. Good night. So long. And remember, the one who dies with the most toys is Dad.